Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
When you're behind the wheel, you need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
Normally, when we come to a place like Pocono, we talk a lot about, how tricky this racetrack is, and at this point in the season, what it's going to mean for the points. But today, before we get into anything, I want to not only welcome you in, but I want you to know that tonight you are joining us in an incredibly special celebration here for the Collegiate iRacing League. 5 years ago to the day was the first ever College Cup Series race in the CIL, the first race in the history of this league. its 5-year anniversary is now today when this league, across its various different series that are all under the CIL banner, has run over 250 races. Between that day and today, we have had hundreds of drivers come through and try their luck at trying to win in this series, obtaining glory not only for themselves, but the colleges and universities that they get to attend. And it's just, it's a cool thing. And we want to thank you all for joining us, whether this is the first race you're tuning in for, or if you've been here since the very beginning, which would be really hard because the first season and a half were not broadcast, so that means you'd be a real lifer. But it's just cool to say that this now is a 5-year-old league with hundreds of races under its belt. It's such a strong community. Thanks to everyone who participates in it and everyone who watches it, comes out here Monday nights, Wednesday, Thursdays, and just, shares this love of racing, love of this sport, and, looking forward to what the next couple years have in store. But enough about that, because we have ourselves a real battle on our hands tonight. It's the Watch Out for the Groundhog 200 presented by the Napa Longland Corporation out in Colorado. Big thank you to them for sponsoring tonight's race. Welcome in everybody with producer Christian Hill, co-commentator Brad Daniels. I'm Alex Gagnon saying welcome in. 5-year anniversary of the CIL is upon us, but I think more importantly for the drivers here tonight, an opportunity to get away from plate racing for the rest of the season from this moment on forward.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a turning point in the season for a lot of these drivers. The points are really close for the halfway point of the season, but Alex, like you said, 5 years in, we got a couple people that have been here for a long time still at the top of the standings, and then some newcomers that have made their way and definitely made their presence known. So tonight is a different change in tempo compared to the last 2 weeks. Still got a little bit of draft dependency for a lot of these guys on the track today, but nonetheless, it's going to be a lot more, I think, fun racing as we're going to see here in the Poconos.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's bring up the schedule real quick while we've got a second. It's worth highlighting. So tonight, kicking off what is easily, in my opinion, the most extreme month on the calendar here in the YumTwo College Cup Series this season. Pocono, Road Atlanta, Homestead, and Martinsville. A lot of variety coming up here, and it all starts tonight at Pocono. That not only is a variable compared to the past couple of tracks we've been to, Brad, but each corner of this racetrack is variable to one another. No corner of this racetrack races the same as one another.
Yeah, and like you said, there's a variety, and here at Pocono, the variety of these turns are pulled from different tracks. Trenton is turn 1. Turn 2 is designed by Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Turn 3 is the Milwaukee Mile. And, back in 1969 when this track was built, really, they were trying to pull all these races together. And I think looking at the next 3 races, you got a whole different conglomerate of track types. Where Pocono, the tricky triangle, this big, wide open, triangle pretty much that, you have draft dependency. You have Road Atlanta next week, the first and only road course we have on the season. And we've gone there before, still not a matchup that we've seen in real life. So the CIL, again, making some firsts here, going back to Road Atlanta. And last time we were there putting on a show, and then Homestead, Miami. I think those really going from Atlanta to Homestead is a huge jump, and then to Martinsville. That little block of 3 right there is going to just be, I think, the craziest and most stressful for these drivers this season.
Yeah, I am inclined to agree with you on that one. It's going to be a really fascinating battle of that grouping of tracks, but it all starts here tonight at this 2.5 miler that is certainly a lot to handle. But speaking of a lot to handle, last week we were just coming from Talladega, and we had a series of firsts in that one. Maverick Davis for Kettering getting his first win here in the YumTwo College Cup Series last week. Austin DeLong, his first podium of the season and second ever. And Nate Smith with his first podium ever for Mississippi State. It was a big shuffle up. Talladega did exactly what we thought it was going to do, which is it rewarded the cars who stuck around and were fast at the end, but not necessarily some names we typically see up there, but maybe that's a sign of things to come. It's a lot of momentum you can take from your first podium or your first win into a place like this that has some overlap in the skills necessary to win there, Brad. How much of that drafting element do you think we're going to see tonight?
I mean, it's definitely not going to be comparative to the last 2 races where it's like a dependency, but at the same time, it's definitely going to help those that can stay in line. You're going to see a lot of drivers when we go through turns 1 and 2, if they're side by side and you're on that outside lane, you're getting that pull from the car in front. You're going to be able to get past the guy on the inside depending on how you get out of the corner. But nonetheless, that draft is going to be a big help for these drivers here tonight. And, for Austin DeLong, he's basically back at his, the Penn Tech College or University is not far from the Poconos here. So, Austin DeLong, I think, is hoping for 2 straight podiums, back here at his home track for Penn Tech.
Yeah, and Penn Tech, Penn College Technology, long-time racers here in this league, very much have an affinity with this track. Maybe tonight we see them get into victory lane. I know there's a couple of them in the field trying to make the show. Qualifying actively underway. We have over 43 cars once again here tonight, which means we will have a couple of did not qualifies in just a couple of minutes. But while we have a second, let's take a look here at the points as they sit through the opening 5 weeks of the calendar. The thing that isn't shocking is that Matthew Morton finds himself on the top step so far through 5 weeks. The thing that is shocking to me, Brad, is how tight the standings are through the top 5 or so.
Yeah, I think last week with Morton not able to qualify definitely helped the rest of the field catch up to the OSU machine. Now you can see Brandon Schoenberger leading the rest of that field back up to Morton, and right now only 7 points away. Daniel Nanny, who also we saw him last year win the championship, and this year he's trying to keep it going, but right now he's got to battle both Wingate and OSU. And then looking through this field, I think Edwin Onofre's been consistently great this season. He's consistently found his way into the field and on a great podium spot. But yeah, looking through the rest of this field here, Alex, anyone else you want to highlight?
Yeah, I see some other names here as we were looking through the top 20. A couple of big names who we have seen not find the same level of success so far in the opening part of this year. Guys like Jake Cummings, guys like Garrett Vighton. A couple of drivers who just kind of had some more up and downs than we've seen in recent years. So we'll see if we're going to see them rebound. You see now going into this top 30. And this is kind of the tail end of the folks who have really been here for each race. Because we've had DNQs at every track we've been to so far this year, Brad. Even just missing a race can sometimes really plummet you down the standings here, because that's just a whole week that goes away. And I know there is a drop week or two factored in to the points, but you can't drop it too much for us. There's the top 50 as they sit. We have even more than that, but we'll just leave it to the top 50 for now. And it's going to be interesting to see now that we have everyone with a few races under their belts. This is the point where that consistency really starts to matter as we get to the back half of the year. For the folks who are not where they want to be in the early couple of races, you really need to find some luck and string together some good results here to try to work your way back into that top 10. But while we have a second, I want to thank the people who make this series possible on a regular basis. ECAC Esports adding great value to its member schools by enhancing the competitive experience for hundreds of students seeking to participate in intercollegiate esports. Whiplash SimCams, an iRacing and esports media group specializing in racing and team graphics, iRacing camera packs, and other broadcasting resources. YumTwo. Cooking is better when it's shared. YumTwo is the new couples cooking app that makes meals fun, interactive, and stress-free. With personalized recipes, meal planning, and step-by-step cooking guides, YumTwo helps couples bond through food. You can join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com. That's YumTwo.com. And the Napa Longland Corporation. Longland Corporation sponsoring tonight's event. For your car, truck, SUV, and heavy-duty needs, visit Napa and get the Napa know-how. And that URL that was on the screen, that is your the link to the Longland stores based out in Colorado to get you exactly what you need for all of your automotive needs. And also, if you haven't been there already, plug the Collegiate iRacing League.com. We're going to talk about that a little bit in just a second. There it is. Collegiate iRacing League. Got to make sure we plug it. That's our website, folks. All the information you need about our different series, how to join, frequently asked questions about the league, how you can get involved, whether as a driver, as a fan, as a coach. That is the place you'll want to be. That is collegiateiracingleague.com to learn more about it. And Brad, while we have a moment here, let's take a look here at the track finally and tell us a little bit about Pocono and what makes this place a wild ride.
Well, typically, called the Tricky Triangle, this place is hard to handle for those who are not used to the Pocono Raceway. I mean, first opened up in 1969, and this 2.5 miler has a lot going on. Not every turn is the same. As we talked about earlier, each one's modeled after a different racetrack. And, you have to practice this a couple times at least during the week to get a little bit under your belt to be fast here. I know a lot of these drivers also, will typically like to, wing it, but I think this is one of the few tracks you have to, start practicing. I think really the stretch of 4 races is when the drivers are definitely going to have to worry about that. But nonetheless, this Tricky Triangle, you'll see a lot of 2 wide, even 3 wide, maybe 4 wide racing going into turn 1. And then after you come out of turn 1, you get that rundown into the backstretch, going through the tunnel turn at turn 2, and that will slingshot your way back into turn 3. These guys are going to be going at blistering speeds here. But the one thing that seems to always happen, I feel like in real life Pocono racing, is fuel mileage, and strategy comes into play here.
Yeah, it really does. It does become a very tricky, not to use the word that is the tagline for the track, but the fuel game really comes into a play here because it's such a large track and because the straightaways are so long. You can draft a little bit, get out of the throttle a little bit if you have someone right in front of you. It can start playing with that fuel number a little bit, and we've seen a lot of races here, and on fumes, people trickling across the line or just not being able to quite make it all the way. Potentially the case here tonight. We have seen some long green flag runs this season. We'll be curious to see if that comes up again here tonight. But with that, we're going to take it trackside to tonight's starting grid for this event here at Pocono tonight. Daniel Nenny, the Ball State driver who's third in the points, he's going to put it on pole, a 53.291. And to his outside, it's last week's winner, Maverick Davis for Kettering. Looking back in row number 2, it's going to be Reese Bayham from Auburn and Matthew Morton back in the lineup here tonight for Ohio State. Row number 3, Aaron Brown, winner 2 weeks ago for Eastern Shore Community College. He's got Clint Halterman to his outside in that 100 machine. Row number 4, Logan Smith from Auburn, Sean Campbell from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. And then rounding out the top 10, Keegan Kalick from St. Clair College and Jake Cummings from Converse.
Starting in 11th, we have Connor Zabosian from Kettering University. To his outside, Tyler Skozen from the University of Northwestern Ohio. In row 7, Edwin Onofre, University of North Texas, and lining out to his outside is Matthew Norberg from North Carolina State University. Starting 15th, we have Jack Clemens from Virginia Tech. To his outside, Kelton Quick from Ball State. In row 9, we got Brandon Schollenberger hoping to keep his hopes up this season as he starts in the 17th position from Wingate University. Brendan Lyman from the Oklahoma Panhandle State University starts 18th. And rounding out your top 20, Garrett Vuitton from Arizona State University and Cade Corbin from the University of Alabama Huntsville.
Looking back to row 11, Trey Lamprecht from Texas A&M San Antonio and Aaron Ramon from Texas A&M International line up side by side. 23rd will be Ball State's Lucas Moody, and Logan Harpine rolls off 24th for ETSU. Back to 25th, it'll be the Clemson driver Nick Stockner. Ben Neller from Ball State in the 79 rolls off 26th. Behind them, it'll be King's College's Doug Newbinging. In the 07, Zach Tallman from the Penn College of Technology in their home race rolls off 28th. Josh Camphor from Kansas State rolls off in the 29th position, with Gavin Brooks from the University of Delaware in 30th.
Lining up in 31st, it's the man that was on the podium last week. It's Austin DeLong from Penn College of Technology. To his outside, Ronan Suarez from Santa Monica College. Miguel Carrera starts on 33rd from the University of Houston downtown, and to his outside, Wesley Shaw from Texas A&M University Texarkana. And 35th, Brian Ferwetta from Embry-Riddle. 2 is outside, Michael James from Drexel University. In row 19, we have Carter Copini from Paul Smith College. 2 is outside, Edward Sanchez from Baruch. And rounding out your top 40 here tonight, Logan McKim from St. Clair College. 2 is outside, Riley Perkins from New England College.
The last 3 cars to make the show tonight, Valparaiso University's Ethan Decatur, Ethan Head from the University of Tennessee, and Jack Wilson from the University of North Georgia will put that number 925 in the field. Robbie Hotchkiss from New England College, Andrew Voigt, Roger Primo, Lee Winters, and Madison Ulrich will all not make the show here tonight. They missed out by, well, in some cases, Robbie Hotchkiss missed out by 0.02 of a second. I mean, it was a tough field, but only 43 of the 48 who came here tonight are going to be able to compete in tonight's event. Watch out for the Groundhog 200 presented by the Longland Corporation. The 5-minute warm-up period between qualifying and the race session has concluded, which means cars are starting to take to the grid. Brad, feels like a good time to talk a little bit about tonight's race analysis.
You can see in the bottom left of your screen, we got 80 laps here in Pocono, and obviously, well, as always, 4 additional sets of tires, and this is the first time the drivers are going to have to worry about tires a little bit since about 3 weeks ago. And like always, we got 1 green light checkered attempt. And Alex, to add on to your beginning little intro to the stream here today, I mean, having 5 cars miss out on a race at Pocono compared to the 5 years ago in the CIL, I mean, I don't know if we would have thought in any sort of way that within 5 years this series would be have so much talent, have so many willing individuals that, you know, qualify here at Pocono that we have to cut drivers. I know when both you and I raced that, you know, you were guaranteed probably a top 30 position, and still now we're almost to 50 every single race, and it seems like this league is just continuously getting more and more talent, along with just more and more drivers that are here to stay.
Yeah, that's really cool. And to that point, while we have a second on this pace lap, I think it's important to note how far the league has come from between its first race 5 years ago and now. First race ever of season 1 was at Kansas. That session, that race, saw 15 cars show up, 14 of which actually taking the green flag. Jared Kaler, multi-time champion from UNC Charlotte, and even a winner just as recently as a season ago, was the first ever winner of that. He led 11 of the 76 laps. North Dakota State's Nick Beaver had the most laps led with 50, but we hadn't seen him, I don't think, since season 1 or 2. But yeah, that race only saw about 14 cars take the green. Tonight, there was 48 cars trying to make the show. And even at 48, one of the smaller numbers we've seen this season. Typically, it's been around 50. So it is really cool to see how much the league has grown between that point and now. And as far as the first time we ever went to Pocono, that was season 3. And that race saw about 35 cars take the green. Everyone who was there showed up. That was a 40-lap race. It was half the distance that we're running here tonight. And Santiago Perez from UNC Charlotte led 30 of those laps. So he went on a pretty seamless drive there. But the pace car gonna peel off down pit road. Here we go, a little 5-year anniversary special as the green flag is in the air. And Daniel Nenny gonna lead the field down to turn 1. We are racing in the Pocono Mountains. And as they make their way off at turn 3, because this track does not have a turn 4, Daniel Nanny finds himself out front. Well, this is only the 4th time the YumTwo College Cup Series has raced at Pocono. In the previous 3 times, Daniel Nanny's won 2 of them. He's won the past 2 races here. Looking to make it 3 in a row at the Tricky Triangle here. He's got Matthew Morton just behind him. And Clinton Halterman, who's applying a little bit of early pressure here to the points leader. The 100 currently tracking in 3rd, right on the tire tracks of that 5 machine from Ohio State. Reese Bayham and Sean Campbell sitting in this top 5 right now.
You can see pretty much everyone up at the front, single file. You see a little bit action towards the back, but right now riding on board with the 100, Clint Halterman. And you can see that all of these drivers are just going to be hugging this yellow line for the most part around the Tricky Triangle. I mean, we've seen, I think Daniel Nanny last time we were here, he just blew by some people in the turn 1 on the final restart, if I can recall correctly. And, you know, it can work if you get the right type of momentum and the right... Oh, we got a caution.
Yeah, something a little deeper in the field, I believe. Ronan Suarez potentially in that 31 machine. Oh, the 77 around Miguel Carrera. The Houston downtown Chevy Camaro. Sideways on the front straightaway. And boy, he's got some significant damage to the nose of that race car. And just like that, Brad, we are under the yellow for the first time here today. And that damage looks pretty sizable at a place where aerodynamics is pretty critical.
Absolutely, Alex. We'll have to take a look back to see what happened to the 77 and maybe some company, but I think Jack Wilson also might be involved in this one as well. It seems like, you know, I think throughout the last couple of races here, you see also Brendan Lyman catching up to the field. We'll take a look back now and see what happens. You can see Edward Sanchez to the outside of the 77, right behind Austin DeLong as well, coming out of turn 3 on the inside. Oh, yeah, on the inside, coming down the front stretch.
Might be the next time around, because he certainly was past that point. So we'll see here. Oh, yeah, there it is.
It looks like Brendan
Lyman's
Lyman.
around. Brendan Lyman, Miguel Carrera. I think Logan McKim caught up in that as well. Well, now we know where the caution was. Now it's a matter of figuring out how it started. So we'll take a look here. Carrera, that's 77 in the white and green up high. This happens just in front of him or just around him, I believe. You see Lyman in the 78 to his inside, and just Carrera gets a little into the wall, who gets into Maverick Davis, and he gets into Brendan Lyman, and they all go spinning. So just running out of room. Everyone thought there was going to be a little bit more room on the exit here than there was, and not the case. And that is one of the hardest places to make a move here at Pocono, is coming off of turn 3. You get deceived because you know this front stretch is so wide. However, it feels like it opens up on the inside of the racetrack after you exit turn 3. The exit to the corner is honestly pretty narrow up to the wall there. And I think Carrera just washed up a little too far. And then subsequently that collision kind of ricocheted into the 15, into the 78. And yeah, there it goes.
See, this is right about in the mid-pack, and Logan McKim, Brian Ferretta also involved. Ben Neller able to squeeze on through. Ethan Decatur and Ronan Suarez also able to get unscathed from that one. And another thing to add, you can see also, yeah, Jack Wilson, as we said earlier, got damage as well. But another thing to add, Alex, obviously with this being a huge track like a couple of other courses, the yellow flag is going to take, you know, a little bit longer here compared to a Martinsville or really anywhere else we go.
Yeah, it's a lot of ground to cover. This is a 2.5 mile racetrack, and even though they'll be pacing around at about 75, 80 miles an hour, still takes a minute to go around here under yellow. So we'll be on board here with Ronan Suarez. Look at how close things get here off of turn 3. The 31 does a great job of sliding through.
Ooh. Had to avoid some ricochet right there of Brendan Lyman. The Santa Monica machine still looking beautiful as ever and able to make it through unscathed as he goes across the start-finish line. So everyone getting back and ready to go. And obviously we were watching that battle up front. Nothing too much to note outside. I mean, we did see Maverick Davis did have to go to the back of the field and obviously included in that wreck. So included in the top 5 right now. We still have Daniel Nanny at the point, but Matthew Morton now up to second. Clint Halterman in third. We have Reese Bayham in fourth, and Sean Campbell making his way up to fifth. Jake Cummings also there in sixth place, started 10th. He got a couple positions, and I think one thing to note here, Alex, much like Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I think you have to calculate your passes here a little more than any other track, I think, because obviously there's not as much banking. You got to make sure you have the right run at the right time. It's a little bit, I mean, when we go to Road Atlanta next week, that's when you're ultimately going to be figuring out when to pass each other. But, here, I think it's still worthy that you have to, figure out how you're going to pass people and ultimately not dump yourself.
It is tricky, and it sounds a little silly in a vacuum, like, oh, you got to figure out how to pass someone. Even like that's kind of the whole name of the game. But at a place like Pocono, you got to be a little calculated with it, because unlike some racetracks where just you can kind of make a move wherever, to what you're saying, Brett, like you kind of need to be really intentional in keeping yourself in position, because there's only a couple areas you can really make a move here. If you get a good run off of 3, you can make a good dive into turn 1 because this front straightaway is so long. And then the other one is really kind of in the entrance to turn 2 if you're feeling pretty daring. The tunnel turn, though, kind of narrow. So you really got to be confident that that's going to work. So we find ourselves here, this group all stacked back together, ready to go. There was a couple of cars initially in that incident. Some cars who are back on the racetrack, it looks like. So Brennan Lyman looks to be back on the racetrack, having repaired some of that damage. Or maybe at least has got back out there to avoid going another lap down. He's in the mix, though. So, up front, as they sit, it's going to be Daniel Nanny, Matthew Morton on the front row, Clint Halterman, Reese Bayham, Sean Campbell, Jake Cummings is your front 6, with Aaron Brown, Logan Smith, Tyler Skozen, and Keegan Kalick in this top 10 group.
One person I want to note real quick, Alex. Riley Birkins went from 40th to 22nd in the three flag laps we had there. Probably the caution helped as well, but the 33 from New England College is also on a mission so far.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a great point. He is up 18 positions already in the opening couple of laps here. A fantastic start to the race here for Riley Birkins in the New England College number 33. We have some other movers, but no one nearly as drastically as that. Wesley Shaw up 13 just in front of him here. He's up from 34th to 21st. With the field coming around, taking the green flag once again. And they will roar their way down this front stretch into turn 1, one of the longest straightaways in all of racing here in the United States. Looks like Nanny's got control here going into 1. Morton closes off Halterman. Bayham, though, going to go up the hill. He's trying to find third on the high side.
You can see further back in the field, 3-4 wide action maybe, but now everyone's going to get it back to 2 wide racing. Looks like Brandon Schoenberger is facing off against Matthew Norberg. We got Keegan Kalick and Tyler Skozen also going to Battle Hill, going into 2. Kalick is going to get a little bit too deep into the corner, and that's going to send him up the hill. And really, as you look through this field, everyone's trying to just get back in line. You can see Sean Campbell, getting in the line for a second there, jumping back to the inside of the 16 of Aaron Brown. But right now, Jake Cummings looking to the inside of Clinton Halterman. And exactly to what you said earlier, Alex, you can get a great run off of 3. That can help you so much. And that's also going to help that Reese Bayham is now looking to the inside of Matthew Morton. Jake Cummings is going to love to see that to get a little bit of a run. The Converse machine is going to try to stick it in there. But right now, Clint Halterman is able to close the door on the 95 and keep the 4th place position. Now everyone within the top 8 is single file. It looks like, a couple guys. I think it's Aaron Brown or Clint Halterman. One of those two hit the outside wall there.
Yeah, I'm thinking it may have been that 16 of Aaron Brown who just got a little over ambitious coming off of 1. Clipped that wall just a little bit. Very similar to what we... Oh, Ethan Decatur sideways through the tunnel turn. The 111 saved it, but I think it triggered the yellow either way. And admittedly, should that have been a yellow? Probably, but no one wrecked, as Ethan Decatur did a great job saving that race car through the tunnel turn. But alas, we are under the yellow for the second time here today. We'll take a look here at the replay. Take a look at this. So the 111 from Valpo in the middle on the outside lane. It's going to be going through turn 2 here, Brad.
Ben Neller to the inside. Oh, we actually have to jump forward here a little bit to see what happened. You can see, yeah, obviously back here further in the field, they were still too wide trying to figure it all out. See some orange-wheeled racing teammates, and a lot of these guys still trying to figure out where things are going on in the line.
Here we go.
Back to it, where Nick Stockner looking to the inside of Ethan Decatur. Decatur checks up a little bit, and I think Ronan Suarez gets to the back corner of the 111, sends them around. The 111 able to graze the outside wall, not too much damage, and that must have been the everything that happened there. I don't think anyone else ended up with any sort of damage further back in the field or a chain reaction.
Yeah, like I was saying, like there was a car sideways in front of the field, and there 2 cars made contact, and then someone ended up in the wall. So like I get it, but also it wasn't. In the grand scheme of things, it wasn't a wreck. You know, it was a phenomenal save from Ethan Decatur to just barely clip that wall. As you see, he gets checked up a little bit here. I believe it's because Wesley Shaw, that might be in front of him, gets a little more checked up. Actually, no, I don't believe that's Wesley Shaw. I believe that's somebody else. But the 111 going to stack up just a little bit. Suarez gets to his back bumper, gives him a tap. But the 111 does a good job, for the most part, keeping it off the fence, keeping all the fenders on it. So he's going to be able to continue the forge on here, no problem.
You can see a couple of takers for pit lane. I mean, the one good thing about having long pace laps is for those with damage, you can, take a couple minutes off of their repairs, try to get that car to the most aerodynamic, pleasing thing they can hope for, and then get back onto the field. You could see on that last restart, too, that a couple cars were just trying to catch up to the field, as I believe Brennan Lyman gets the free pass and is back on the lead lap. But nonetheless, a lot of these drivers that got caught up in some of these cautions already are able to get their cars back to at least a little bit of semblance of normal.
Yeah, and that's a big break here. If you have issues early, the only thing that is really helpful is other people having issues early, where you can then use that time to repair your own ride. So you can see here the wonderful folks at YumTwo. I know we talk about them a lot, but it's really worth mentioning that this race is brought to you by YumTwo, the cooking app that brings couples closer. YumTwo, together tastes better. You can check them out there at YumTwo.com. So 41 cars now on the lead lap as the 78 of Brennan Lyman gets the free pass to get back onto the lead lap here. Up front, Daniel Nanny, Matthew Morton, that part has not changed. What has changed, though, has been the cars running just behind him a little bit, as my timing tower is freaking out on my end. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but my ATVO is lighting up like a Christmas tree on my third monitor at the moment. It is just dancing around right now. So there we go. There's something that we can hang on to, because my screen's having a freak out. So, yeah, to what you were saying earlier, Riley Birkins up 20 positions. He's from 40th up to 20th. He is one of our big movers so far in the early going of this race. The field's starting to get stacked up, ready to go. And, Brad, I got to imagine these guys are getting a little antsy on the consecutive restarts here to kick this one off.
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys obviously want to get some sort of green flag runs going. The tires haven't weared that much, obviously, with little green flag running. They're eventually going to hit their tipping point, though, where, the fresh rubber is going to go away, and they're going to start, actually feeling that tire wear kick into effect. The last 2 races, obviously, no one has to really worry about that. Atlanta a little bit, but definitely here at Pocono, we're going to have a lot. Is that Maverick Davis, I think, on the inside that has to fall to the end of the line? But nonetheless, going back to what I was saying, the tires are going to wear. These drivers, if they want to, have a green flag run, they're going to have to get used to this tire wear yet again here in Pocono. And I think, obviously, next week at Road Atlanta is going to be also a little bit of a fun time. So I think this Pocono race is going to get them back into the swing of tire wear. And then when it comes to the road course racing, that's just another element that they're going to have to get used to. But for right now, you can see a lot of these drivers, you can see on the left hand of your screen, that they have been jumping up and down the standings.
So we just laughing here because it feels like anytime we were like, oh, let's talk about this thing, is just as that thing goes away here. I think producer Christian's playing a bit of a practical joke on us here tonight, and I wouldn't blame him. But here we go, getting ready to rumble once again here at the Poconos. Pace car going to peel off. When they take the green, it's going to get us onto lap number 12. Ball State's Daniel Nenny trying to go 3 in a row here at Pocono will lead us back to the start-finish line. Matthew Morton, our points leader, to the outside, rumbling that outside lane ahead. Here we go.
You can see Nanny is diving a little bit down to the inside line, trying not to get any sort of side draft going from Morton. He's able to clear him going into 1, and now the battle's on for 3rd. You can see Reese Bay heading to the bottom, put Halterman taking that middle line, and now it's going to send him past the Auburn machine and able to clinch that 3rd place position. And you can see this top 5 falling into place yet again. Jake Cummings is going to get back in line for 6th, and you can see that now everyone's just stuck to the back bumper of each other, try to get some draft and maybe some green flag running here in Pocono.
Yeah, so here we go. Car starting to chug away into turn 3. A little bit of side-by-side as Schulenberger takes a peek to the inside of Sean Campbell coming off of turn 3. Wingate and UNC Greensboro side-by-side as they rumble their way ahead. This long front straightaway leads to a lot of opportunities for draft. Campbell had it, Schulenberger didn't. So the 7 loses out to Logan Smith as well, as everyone piles it into the corner here. Oh, the 9 washing up just a little bit. Going to close off the 34's opportunity to try to make a move. You see some cars knocking down that back wall coming off of 1, but just about everyone within a couple of laps here, single filing out. And that's how just how it goes at Pocono. That draft is so powerful on the straightaways. You need to be really timely with your moves. Oh, Josh Camphor around, and Wesley Shaw as well. Kansas State machine of the 82, heavy contact, and there's more cars wrecking here off the short chute. It started with the 82, who got around of Josh Camphor. 73 of Wesley Shaw was the first person he made contact with, and then when the 82 came back up the racetrack, there was kind of nowhere for anyone to go in that little pocket of cars at the back end of the field.
I know, man, that Texarkana machine is definitely bunched up. I'll take a look at what happened to everyone involved. It looked like the Kansas State machine and Josh Camphor had a little bit of with high speeds come high speed cautions, and I think for the Kansas State machine, he was just a victim of that tunnel turn where you carry a lot of speed, a lot of momentum, but also at the same time, if anyone hits you or you hit the line a little wrong, that can end up being catastrophe. You can see a couple cars, unfortunately, got that domino effect of the 82, and we'll see what else is going on as we look back here at the ONOH-EDU replay. Looking back at the 82, you can see Wesley Shaw gets up into the 82. That sends him up into the wall and sends the 73 back up into the wall, and some others get included. Ben Neller, I think, is able to... Oh, Michael James gets the left rear tire clipped against the 82. Josh Camphor immediately sends it back to pit road. The end of the day for the Kansas State machine. We'll ride along with the Drexel University machine and Michael James. You can see coming up to this caution, he just locked the brakes down, had nothing he could really do. He just locked him up a little bit too late, sends it into Ethan Head on the outside of him, and that 99 is going to need a little bit of more damage more repair than anyone else in this field. You can see back to the 73 machine, gets sent around, and then just gets tagged by a couple others here as they're coming up. It looks like, I believe that is the 97 of Gavin Brooks that gets tagged on the front bumper of Wesley Shaw. A couple others also involved in this whole ordeal.
Yeah, we'll jump on board here with the Delaware driver, Gavin Brooks, in the 97. This unfolds about 5 or 6 cars in front of him the next time around the track. And next time, this is next lap here, and we'll jump on with the 97. So we'll see if we catch up to it. There it is. So on board with Josh Camphor Josh Camphor here into the fence. There's the initial bit of contact.
Cool.
And then here comes another shot as Michael James is going to slide on by. And wipe him out a little bit. And then this is the onboard with the 97 that we were looking for just a moment ago. And you can see when these cars get together, he's got some room here. You see the smoke and you're like, all right, it's up there somewhere. Yeah, he was trying to slide on by, but that little bit of contact here with Trey Lamprecht puts him up to the fence, and as he tries getting off the wall, just not quite able to avoid Wesley Shaw. So with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, continued coverage of tonight's event. And maybe when we come back after the break, we'll tell you why it's called the Watch Out for the Groundhog 200, presented by the Longland Corporation. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
When you're behind the wheel, you need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
And we are back here racing at Pocono. It'll be Nanny and Morton leading them into turn one once again. And Nanny a big sweep up to that high side, closing off the 5. They're already going 3 wide into turn 1. Oh, big wreck back in the field. Austin DeLong sideways. He's got Aaron Ramon and Ronan Suarez with him. Carter Capini sideways. They're still wrecking off of 1.
Oh, still wrecking going down the straight here. It looks like Brendan Lyman that might be.
Couple cars caught up in that one. That started in the middle of turn 1 and just kept going. First one that I really saw, though, was the 222 of Austin DeLong that was sideways. He was making some contact there. I want to say with, it might have been Aaron Ramon. Carter Capini, that car looks to have some significant damage, that Paul Smith's College machine.
Right now, if you're in the top 15, you're relatively unscathed, but it seems like a battlefield back here when you get past 15th is really, yeah, we can start this going on the restart. As you can see Austin DeLong, the Penn Tech machine, right behind his teammate, Zach Tallman. These two pushing their way down the front stretch. And you can see a little bit of a gap, making sure they can see those cones on the outside wall to see their braking zones. And the 77 of Miguel Carrera gets into the back corner of the 222, and that gets Ethan Decatur involved. And that's just a domino effect. You can see the 14, the 31, and pretty much anyone that was back here involved. You could see the 17, the 10 of Logan McKim also able to avoid it. Cade Corbin able to sneak his way through, and Oh, a hard hit for, I believe that is that the 248 of Brian Ferretta? Sorry, or Aaron
Might have
Ramon.
been. Yeah,
No.
it was Aaron Ramon, I
Nope.
think, who
Ramon.
got caught up there. It looks like Ferretta was also involved, but Ramon got that shot there at the end from Capini. So there is a couple of cars who have now significant damage. And pretty quickly, this field is starting to thin out as far as cars that are A, on the racetrack, but B, on the lead lap. This is starting to become a little bit of a war of attrition here tonight. You see the field trying to get caught up here to the pace car. And, you know, Brad, right before we went to the break, we were telling the folks at home that we might be letting them know what the meaning of tonight's event is. The Watch Out for the Groundhog 200. And I'm going to pose a couple options out there, and we'll let the folks at home take their guess on what they think it's going to be or what they want it to be. You know, what do they think it's for? So your first option is it for the fact that within the state of Pennsylvania, granted, kind of the other side of the state, but not really, more like the middle of the state, is the small town of Punxsutawney. And Punxsutawney, home to the famous Punxsutawney Phil, the groundhog that supposedly can foretell the weather of the upcoming season, coming out of winter into spring. That may be one of the reasons for it. Your second guess, second option, back around that same, or back in the mid 2000s or so, NASCAR, I think it was NASCAR on Fox, had the old digger cam, which was the camera they embedded in the apron of the track. And that was another animated groundhog. So there's your second groundhog option, potentially. Or your third one, is it for the groundhog that ran out here during Cup Series practice in 2014? It could be any of those, could be none of those. But for the folks at home, I want you to take your guesses, take your bets on what you think it might be. And seems like this track has a lot of associations with groundhogs. That certainly feels like it, just going through that list. But we're taking a look here at the onboard. Garrett Vighton, the Arizona State driver, currently running in that 15th position. Just kind of hanging out, and I know, if there's anything I know about Garrett Vighton, is that these are the kind of races where I'm sure his comms are hilarious, because he has a lot of time to just sit there and say whatever during the cautions. I think he usually streams his point of view as well during these races, and I think back to some of the other caution-heavy races we've had in the past, and they've always been a fun time to go back to and see his thoughts on it. There's Aaron Brown, winner from 2 weeks ago, Brad. And tell you what, he looks like he's got a pretty decent setup there.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a lot going on here for the Eastern Shore Community College. I mean, you can see you got multiple, it looks like, setups here in the race station. And, you know, just keeping it going. The 5th place for Aaron Brown right now, currently in row 3, doing a great job of staying up towards the front of the pack for these short green flag runs. And looking on the inside line, that's probably the preferred line for a lot of these drivers here tonight. And I think right now, obviously, I don't think he's going to be driving with one hand soon here, but, you know, a lot of these drivers are going to have to get ready to go here, as the green flag will be dropping here momentarily.
Yeah, they'll be making their way into turn 3 this time around. For the cars in this front group, say the top 15, 20 or so, there has not been a ton of opportunities to really change positions the past few laps. But one thing that I think is starting to creep onto their minds a little bit here is that the fuel window is about 35 to 38 laps if this was under green. With all the caution laps, they'll probably be able to get a few more laps out of it. And might be able to make this a one-stop race instead of a 2. So I'm sure it's something that they're keeping an eye on pretty intently, as the green flag is going to go back in the air. We are racing once again here in Pocono. And this field looks pretty contained. Some elevator moves at the back of the field, but everyone going to kind of pile it in too wide here into turn 1.
And yet again, Clint Haltman looking to the inside of Matthew Morton, going through 1. The Ohio State machine is going to have the preferred line, though, as he's going to get pulled from Daniel Nanny. Clint Halterman's going to subsequently fall back in line. You can see Reese Bayham also in line now. You can see how powerful that draft is, as now the 5 is right up to the 30 through that backstretch there. And now everyone falling back in line. You can see the 334 trying to figure out what to do next. It looks like further back in about 10th position, it looks like Keegan Cowlick is battling off Connor Zabosian, and now everyone fans out into turn 3, as we say, everyone's single file and gets back in line. So now we're back in the single file view.
It's Schulenberger and Onofre here, the battle we're watching for 9th and 10th. The 199 of Onofre, 4th in the points. It's been a great start to the year for the North Texas driver. Schulenberger sits 2nd in the points right now. It's been a fantastic season for him so far as well. The two of them both running in the top 10 right now as we speak. Schulenberger to the inside of Logan Smith off of 2. Does not have anyone on that inside lane, though. He's going to try to side draft him a bit. But not much going here for the 7. And this is the tough part of Pocono, is a couple laps after the restart before everyone has a chance to really spread out. When the draft is at its most powerful, and making those moves can sometimes be incredibly difficult. Call Schulenberger there. He falls back to 10th. He's going to settle back in behind the 199. He's got Connor Zabosian all over his back bumper, though. He is just getting hounded right now by the 72 and the 29 to Keegan Cowlick. You see Cowlick actually to his outside. There's the 29 popping into view on that outside lane. So Schulenberger starting to slip the wrong direction here to make our way on the lap 23.
I mean, right now, Schulenberger trying to hold that inside line, but trying to find a way back to the outside. And now Connor Zabosian is going to be able to take that 12th position or 11th position away from the Wingate machine. And now it looks like Matthew Norberg also is going to be able to take a position as Brandon Schulberger falls into the gap right before Tyler Skozen from UNOH. And now we're fanning back out a little bit as I say that. It looks like Keegan Cowlick and Connor Zabosian right in front of these two are battling it out. It looks like Connor Zabosian able to get around the St. Clair machine, getting now to the back bumper of the University of North Texas machine and Edwin Onofre. So a little bit of movement here on this restart. I think a lot of these drivers are at least keeping it calm and contained. It looks like a lot of single file racing now as the green flag keeps going out. Literally everyone in a single file until you go about 35th on back. It just seems like everyone kind of wants some green flag runs and maybe some, tire strategy, and also, like you said, some maybe fuel strategy, as it looked like a little bit of side-by-side action for a moment there, but everyone get back in line and get in the draft.
Yeah, this is the tough part of Pocono. You have the restarts that are wild, that are crazy, that the cars can fan out so wide here. And then you get back into, just a couple laps into the run where everyone finds a single file line because they know the draft is powerful, but it has not been enough time for cars to really start falling off yet. And we give it a few more laps. That's when I think you'll start seeing the passing really start to pick up again. When that draft weakens, cars space out a little bit more and people can start picking each other off one by one. But right now, it's just a matter of trying to keep that draft humming. As we saw Connor Zabosian wash up in the tunnel turn a moment ago, he fell back a position because of it. He's now scored in the 11th position behind Keegan Cowlick. Got 29 for St. Clair sitting in that 10th spot. The 72 from Kettering trying to follow it up. Him and Maverick Davis trying to put Kettering back in victory lane for the second time in a row after Davis's win last week at Talladega. Zabosian right now doing a pretty good job running in that 11th position just in front of NC State's Matthew Nordberg. And just in front of them, looks like Edwin Onofre's got a peek to the inside of Logan Smith. Got a nice little battle for 8th here between the 34 and the 199. There's that battle, and you're seeing Onofre down low, Logan Smith up high. The 29 might get into the mix here as well. They're going to be side by side off of turn 3. Onofre going to have to settle back into that 9th spot for now. But I see what he can do, man. He is really giving it a go last time around through 2 and 3 there, Brad.
Yeah, the Mean Green machine is trying to make anything work. I mean, right now, these tires, as time goes on, it's just going to get so much harder to pass. And with all the, you can see the hesitancy and also some of the runs that stall out on these stretches because of the draft. Like, it's so hard in this stage to pass people because you're obviously on fresh enough tires that you feel like you could do something. But at the same time, sometimes it doesn't stick, and that can cause some calamity. And also, the draft on that outside line just helps everybody involved. And now you can see Edwin Onofre settling in for 9th position as of everyone else. And one thing to note, you can see on that timing table on the left-hand part of your screen that Daniel Nanny, despite having no draft support in front of him, has run the fastest lap and he's still not getting away. The 30 is definitely has a mirror full of the OSU machine along with Clint Halterman, but these front four have really got themselves away from the rest of the field. Reese Bayham clinging onto the trenches of a podium spot right now. You can see Matthew Morton slowly clinging his way back to the 30, but at this stage right now, Daniel Nanny and Matthew Morton, I mean, right now you got also Clint Halterman involved. These guys are just trying to benefit from each other using the draft, and I think Morton's going to try and set himself up for a pass when he can, but obviously he's got only one car in front of him, so he's just trying to figure out the perfect plan to pass that one car, unlike Clint Halterman and Reese Bayham, who they got to figure out how to do multiple passes through this tricky triangle. But you can see there, it looks like Clint Halterman has a great run through 3, and Daniel Nanny's actually going to help the 100 try to get around the 5. That might be a little bit of strategic help, as you see the 100's able to clear the 5 for the second position, and now UNC Charlotte's going to try and take away the lead from Ball State, but now it looks like the 100 washes up the racetrack.
Yeah, it looks like Clinton Halterman, nice little move down the front straightaway, takes that spot away. Nanny had to choose what lane he was going to try to block, which also led to some draft support for that lane. He went low. Halterman capitalized on that draft, was able to slide past Matthew Morton. And the 100 now slides into that second spot. Morton, though, on the charge back here, trying to get his way back into the second position. And the more they battle, the more it could allow race leader Daniel Nanny to start getting some separation. Easier said than done. But right now, it looks like Morton not going to be able to set anything up there just yet, as the caution is out deeper in the field. Can't exactly tell you for what.
Yeah,
Maybe the 143, I think, is already on pit road. I don't think that's anything new.
We're going to ride along with the 21 of Logan Harpine from ETSU to see if the 21 is the reason for the caution right now. We got to still figure it out with the stewards and see how iRacing threw this out.
Yeah, we're waiting to see him because the field is spread out pretty far here, Brad. I don't even really know what part of the racetrack we're really looking for something to be happening at.
I mean, you can see, no one side by side, and especially it's not too often that you don't know where a caution happens, especially in iRacing. Usually if it gets thrown out, something pretty big is going on, but I guess so far today we've seen the yellow flag sway for Ethan Decatur. Ooh. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, so he slides up into the wall, and he is sideways in the racing line. So that is going to bring out the yellows. Cars would have to swerve to avoid the 21 of Harpine. So the tunnel turn gets another one here. And that brings out, I believe, our 5th caution of the day here, going on to lap 30. And just about everyone making their way down pit road here. The first time we've really been able to say that. Oh, no, a couple of guys didn't go down. It's been a bit of a split decision. Daniel Nanny, Matthew Morton, both down pit road. Clint Halterman was not. So here comes about 2/3 of the field. Going to get service done.
And I think you're seeing a lot of drivers think, do you want this perfect fuel strategy and, take the hit on the tires and hope for maybe another caution or at least the rest of the race to go green? Or do you want these tires now and you get at least a half a second buffer on those that have older tires? Since they're not true 30-lap old tires, there's a lot of cautions that go on. See what happens here as you see Morton is able to get out in front. It looks like Nanny is able to come out second with Sean Campbell third in line. The rest of the field tagging on behind, and a couple other cars getting some repairs as well.
Great stop for the 5 crew. Matthew Morton will jump out in front of the 30 here on pit road. On pit lane for Matthew Morton. He actually had a 0.2 second slower stop, a 14.7 to a 14.5. The big difference, Morton just so much faster on and off of pit road down the lane. 41.3 to 43.3 was the difference for the 5 to jump out in front of the 30. So he will take that spot from the 30 as far as where they were running relative to each other. However, there was 8 cars who stayed out on the racetrack here. Clint Halterman, Reese Bayham, Jake Cummings, Logan Smith. All 4 of those drivers were in the top 10. Matthew Nordberg, Connor Zabosian were both in the top 15. And then Nick Stockner and Lucas Moody were the other 2 who stayed out. So 8 cars electing to stay on the racetrack. Just about everyone else came down pit road. And that lead group of those who did come down pit road, Matthew Morton, Daniel Nanny, Sean Campbell, Keegan Kalick, and Aaron Brown, the first 5 who stopped there. All of them, I believe, put on tires. Edward Sanchez, I think, took a 2-tire stop. He was only 9.9 in the box, and that got him some pretty needed track position. He's jumped up now to the 14th position. As there you see Edward Sanchez and the webcam that is loosely pointed at his head. Edward Sanchez is telling us that this was an intentional setup. But, yeah, he you can see how much he's had to really been dialed in here. Nice little yawn under the yellow. Can't say I blame him. Spent a lot of time running around at pacing speed, and that really lulls you to sleep as a driver, Brad. When you spend a lot of this race at 75 miles an hour, it's tough to get that full that full focus, I could say, I guess, whenever you're not. Oh, wait, there you go. Letting the folks know to never give up, and that's what we will say to you there, sir, in the 26 machine. Edward Sanchez is going to try to work his way to the front. He's up to 14th.
Man, oh man, I like that. You could tell Edward has the stream up as well, watching, making sure he's got that fighter's attitude. He's not giving up right now, trying to fight his way up through this field. And obviously, the 2-tire stop is going to be that daring push and try and see if that's going to benefit. That might also help the field figure out if 2-tire stop is, very helpful.
Yeah, no, this is a big moment for the field. There's a bit of a tester here to see how well 2 tires will hold up, and I think a lot of cars will use this information for later on in this race, because if Edward Sanchez is able to hold with the pack here, we might see a lot of 2-tire stops at the tail end of this thing. So the field is stacked up. The lights are still on, the pace cars. There are still cars trying to get caught up to the field, so they'll be going green this time by, which means we are going to take a quick step aside. When we come back, it will be back to racing here at Pocono. We'll be back in just a moment.
When you're behind the wheel, you need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
All right, folks, welcome back. When the pace car peels off this time around, it'll take us to lap 33. Just about everybody who is in the top 8 are on fresh tires. That front group going to try to hold off the rest of the field on 32-lap-old tires as we go green. Clinton Halterman, Reese Bayham going to lead them down into turn 1. Halterman gets a good jump over the 334, and he's going to lead this field. As everyone dodging and weaving 3 wide already in the turn 1 a little further on back.
Got a little bit of serpentine action happening on that front stretch. Everyone fanning out. A little bit of 4 wide maybe action, but Aaron Brown around.
Aaron Brown sideways off of turn 1. He collects it. He kept it off the wall, which was a huge break for the 16. But you can see he does not look particularly thrilled about that one.
And the last caution you saw was a self-spin, and we'll have to see if Aaron, on those fresh tires, just maybe got a little too antsy or maybe some help. I mean, you saw everyone was going into turn 1, and it was just everyone for themselves pretty much if you're 5th on back. And for the Eastern Shore Community College machine, that team luckily didn't end up with too much damage. As you can see, the car is still clean and shiny as it goes through turn 3 now.
Yeah, so let's see if we can take a look at the replay, see what happened to the 16 machine. Yeah, he's on the inside here, just behind Campbell and Nanny. And I think he actually just gets a little bit of the apron coming off of turn 1. You saw that car shimmy at a weird part of the exit of the corner. But it's not necessarily like he may have just throttled up a little too quickly, but cars don't normally shake like that if they're losing the back end. I think he may have just got down there and clipped a little bit of that yellow line. And yeah, there it was, just enough to upset the balance of the car. When he came back onto the banking, trying to get down on the throttle, that car was not a fan. Jumped sideways on him, but he did a great job keeping it off the fence. So no damage to the winner from Echo Park 2 weeks ago, but certainly now a big loss of track position for the Eastern Shore guy.
And now these drivers obviously have to collect it all up again. Nobody in this front 8 that, from what we're seeing now, going down pit road, just committing to the bit. This is also helping their strategy. As long as they can keep as many positions as they can, that's going to help them out a ton. You can see a lot of these guys further on back trying to just get some damage repairs, and obviously for the 16, some tires that aren't flat after that skid on the apron, but maybe minimal damage, if anything, from hitting that apron. But, you know, obviously, like you said, Alex, hitting the apron, something that we don't really talk about much. And obviously with being here at Pocono, that inside line is where everyone is. Definitely something that if you just touch it, if you just, you know, rev up the engine a little too much, get a little too antsy, get that front end down on the apron just a little bit, you could see it exactly did what, you know, the 16 does and spin right around. And luckily for the 16, that open area back there was able to save him and not hit the inside wall. And I know driving here that I think both you and me, Alex, can say that I think we both had our difficulties here at Pocono when we were driving here in the YumTwo College Cup Series, but it definitely is not an easy track, hence why we keep saying it's a tricky triangle, and hence why we keep saying the word tricky.
Yeah, for context of, you want to know how poorly we did here. The one time that we both entered a YumTwo College Cup Series race at Pocono, Brad, it looks like you finished 28th, but on the lead lap, and I finished 33rd, 6 laps down. So was not our finest effort at Pocono. But then we also didn't run Pocono, I think, the rest of the time that we were drivers in the series, because this is only the 4th time that we've been here. They ran it in Season 3. That one was won by Santiago, or sorry, Season 4, when it was, no, 3, yeah. Was won in Season 3. Won by Santiago Therese from UNC Charlotte. Did not make a return appearance till Season 10, when it was won by Daniel Nanny, and then he won it last season. That would be Season 12. So trying to go 3 in a row here at Pocono in Seasons 10, 12, and 13. If the 30 of Daniel Nanny is able to get up there and win this thing once again. He is back into the top 10 and on fresh tires. Certainly a possibility. So we're just about at the halfway point, and for those cars who stayed out, only one of them came down pit road, I think. Actually, no, none of them did. Sorry, apologies. All 8 of them have stayed out on the racetrack another go here. If things had stayed under green, this is about the time when they would be out of fuel, but we've done so much pacing here today where they're not burning as much fuel because they're not running at speed. I honestly think these guys can probably stretch it another several laps, no problem. And with the way the cautions have fallen, this might be working out perfectly for them. If there's another caution in the next couple laps, they may only need to stop once as opposed to the expected 2 stops that we were assuming for everyone in the field here tonight.
And I wish we had a stat for how many times Nick Stockner has stayed out comparative to the field, because I feel like he would be winning that in a long shot compared to anyone else in the history of the YumTwo College Cup Series. I feel like that 124 always is daring to do anything it takes to get himself up there, and most of the time I feel like he's able to keep that Clemson machine relatively fast, at least in the beginning stages. Obviously, each scenario is different, but I think for the 124, out of anyone in this top 8, he's the most experienced at staying on older tires when everyone else is just hunting you down with those fresher tires. So pace car back into pit road. Barney has the green flag in hand, and we are green yet again as you see Clint Haldeman dive down to the inside, able to clear everyone coming to the stripe. What a great jump for the UNC Charlotte car.
Yeah, he did a phenomenal job with that launch. It looks like Jake Cummings now to the inside of Reese Bayham for second. They're going to try to sort this out as they're 3 and 4 wide again in turn 1. You know, they run on through, there's a caution, and then they go right back out there 3 and 4 wide. They are going all out at the moment. And things are getting a little stacked up here. You see the cars on fresher tires trying to force their way through, having a really tough time. There's a good bit of traffic on those older tires as Stockner nearly washed up in the Morton. The 5, though, able to escape. He tucks in now to the inside of Logan Smith as Cummings battling with Bayham for second just in front of him. All this is happening, and oh, the 5 and the 34 nearly come together coming off of that corner. You see Daniel Nenny and Matt Nordberg just behind us. They're going to duke it out here. Same with Zabosian and Sean Campbell. The 30 really drove it in deep.
Yeah, he's saving that car, washing it up, and almost gets into the 076. They're 3 wide coming out of 1, and everyone having to avoid Daniel Nanny now. I think he sent a little too hard. You see St. Clair's Keegan Cowlick help the 30 get down, and now it's just a swarm of cars around Daniel Nanny now. Holy moly, that is almost ended up as another caution. You can see Lucas Moody has to back out a little bit, and now it's side by side for Sean Campbell, Daniel Nanny for the P9 position. The 9 and the 30 diving it down into turn 3, and see if Daniel Nanny can maybe save a little bit of tire, as that, you know, that was an ultimate send from the 30 trying to get down into turn 1. That's a very offsetting feeling when you're here at Pocono. You feel like you can absolutely
to the inside wall. The 17 into the inside retaining barrier. Caution is out, and he was not the only one caught up in it. I want to say maybe Ben Neller was also caught up in it as well. Oh, yeah, there's the 79. Carter Capini in the 14 caught up as well. Something happened off of turn 3 where the 17 went for a wild ride.
Man, the Hokie cars. The 17, Jack Clemens, unfortunately, had to hit that inside wall. The inside wall, obviously not too much padding, and over the years, they've got more and more padding on the inside wall, but nonetheless, cars, whenever they send it into that inside wall, it is just a hard hit. And you can see throughout this stadium, or, well, this racetrack, not stadium, that the inside wall has a lot, not too much padding comparative to a lot of others, as we're catching up to see what happened here with the Virginia Tech machine and Jack Clemens and others in the back. You can see Doug Newbigging, Ben Neller, Garrett Vighton also included in this battle. But now looking here, Ben Neller, Doug Newbigging, and it looks like the 17 hits the outside wall, sends it down into the 79. And it looks like for the 17's sake, really just that inside wall was all it took from that machine. I don't think, Alex, is there anyone else involved?
Yeah, I mean, there was only a couple of cars. You'll see here, this is just behind it with, or next time around, it'll be just behind it here with Aaron Brown, I believe. Yeah, so this is, I believe, coming off of turn 3. Neller and... Or is it the next one? Maybe it's the... Oh, no, here it is. Yeah, Aaron Brown had to sweep to avoid it. And just barely got clear. He may have just barely clipped Ben Neller. I'm not entirely sure, but it looked like he got away from that, dodging a bullet.
You can see that was a racing incident. No one directly at fault for that whole incident. And Alex, while we have the time, we're hitting the halfway point here at Pocono. Got 6 cautions under our belt. Looks like people are coming into the pits now, though.
Big opportunity to maybe make this a one-stop race for everyone who stayed out. And even for the cars who didn't, putting fresh tires and fuel in now in the hopes that we get the patented YumTwo College Cup Series extended green flag run in the second half of the race that we've seen multiple times this season. A lot of takers for pit road, honestly. This is going to shuffle up the field a little bit, and yet there are 3 cars who are still at the front of this field who haven't come down pit road at all. Reese Bayham, Jake Cummings, Logan Smith still have not made their way down pit road yet in this race. And they continue the track out there in those top 3 positions because of it. Well, I guess this is as good a time as any, given that we are at the halfway mark. For the folks at home, what's going on? How's your Monday going? I hope it was well. If there's anything that y'all want to chat about under the cautions, feel free to throw it in the chat. We'll we'll talk about it up here in the booth. Favorite type of ice cream is the question posed from producer Christian. And I'll tell you what, this isn't necessarily a flavor of ice cream, but my favorite way to have ice cream, turtle sundae. Get yourself the pecans, get yourself the caramel, and the hot fudge. I'm there every time. Every single time. That's my go-to. So we've reached that point in the night, folks. We're hanging out, we're having a good time. And Brad, how about you? What's your either favorite flavor or favorite way for ice cream?
I mean, we're dreaming about ice cream here. Usually there's a spot near where I grew up where they had, it was not a combination, but I always get 2 scoops. Top scoop would be cinnamon roll, bottom scoop would be cotton candy. And
what a combination. That's a wild combo.
It is way too sweet for probably a ton of people, but that hit the spot, especially after literally any baseball game or anything that had to do with exercise. All the sweat that came out, you're just inserting it with just sugar and just all
Who
the
needs
sweets
electrolytes? Just pure sugar. That's awesome. So producer Christian's pick is mint chocolate chip ice cream with orange soda. And I got to tell you right off the bat, that sounds A, diabolical, and B, not even fun. What is the rationale, folks? Everyone, make sure you tell producer Christian that he has an insane taste in ice cream, because that was uncalled for. Mint chocolate chip and orange soda. What are we doing here? So he's saying that the mint in the ice cream is different from the mint in toothpaste, and the orange in the orange soda is different from orange juice. I'm going to call BS on that. I don't think they're that different.
You know what? Second thought, no.
So, all right. Well, that is past this caution. They're getting ready to go here through turn 3. Seeing an orange soda with vanilla ice cream. Now that I can get behind. Little creamsicle combination. See,
that is perfect.
That is a much better combination than whatever producer Christian's thrown together, man. That was evil. That was absolutely evil. But it's going to be Reese Bayham and Jake Cummings up at the front of the field here in row number 1. Logan Smith, Matthew Morton, the first car on fresh tires in row 2. St. Clair College's Keegan Kallick and Brendan Schulenberger, that third row, with Sanchez, Skozen, Vighton, and Quick just behind him as the green flags back out in the air. And here we go into turn number 1. Bayham on the old tires, going to try to hold the field at bay. He's got the advantage going into turn 1. Matthew Morton, though, sends it way up the racetrack. Well, I don't know if I've ever seen someone willingly go that high up. Oh, and Zabosian and Moody get together. And Logan Smith, I think something happened to the 34. He just plummeted down my timing table.
Not mine. I mean,
Nope, he's still up at the front. Never mind, but I do think it was that contact with Moody and Zabosian. I do think that is what brought out the yellow.
Right now, I mean, Auburn has that top 2 blocked out. We'll see if they take the pits, though, to get some fresh tires. I mean, obviously, you're safe now, no matter if it goes green or not for Auburn and Jake Cummings. But nonetheless, I think everyone else will have to see what happens here. But we take a look back at the UNOH, the EDU replay, as looking back, Lucas Moody, Connor Zabosian, as we talked about before, Kettering, Ball State on that outside lane. You can see things getting slightly stacked up as they do further back in the pack. Everyone just trying to see how they get their way into turn 1. The 13 dives it on in there, and oh, Brian Ferwetto looks like washes up into both of them, sends them both into the outside wall, and relatively unscathed for the 13th, but the 72, I think, got sent around enough for iRacing to set that caution out.
That will bring out the yellow once again here at Pocono for that contact between Lucas Moody and Connor Zabosian. And while you were going through your recap of the incident there, Brad, we got another suggestion of the graders. It says Buckley Blitz. I'm assuming they're talking about the Buckeye Blitz. When that's some peanut butter ice cream, peanut butter cookie dough, and dark chocolate chips, which and that sounds pretty fire too. I hear producer Christian sounds like he's going to try to probably going to find a snack here if we keep talking about ice cream for too much longer. Oh, well, he's already eating ice cream now. Please tell me you are not having mint chocolate chip and orange soda. If you are eating that right now, I'd freak out.
Live coverage right now.
Okay, he's just doing mint chocolate chip for the folks at home. So what's crazy is either half of that combination, completely normal, and I'm on board with. It's the idea of combining it that freaks me out. So you see Lucas Moody peeling on to pit road. He's going to get some of that damage repaired. I'd imagine Zabosian will be in a similar boat. So, well, that was last caution's just miscellaneous topic of conversation. How about this one? What is, let's say you have a long weekend that you could go somewhere. Brad, producer Christian, where is the place that if, money wasn't a concern for a long weekend, where would you like to spend it?
See, I've gone through this conversation because I've been planning for a honeymoon that's going to happen probably at the end of next year. But I've probably gone through every aspect. And nonetheless, I would probably be one. I've always been interested in going to Australia.
Oh,
because they just there's so much going on there. I'm not a fan of bugs, but like I know there's like crazy stuff going on, in the country of Australia. I know I'm gonna have to sleep on the plane to get there. There's a lot of variables, but nonetheless, I feel like Australia just is it's on the opposite side of the world. Everything's upside down. No, I'm kidding. But they are. It's somewhere I've always wanted to go. Nonetheless, there's also a lot of places in Europe. I think that'd be pretty cool. But I think Australia, although being the opposite point of the world from where we are sitting right now, it would be cool.
It would be pretty. I'm also seeing in the chat Panama. That's a pretty cool choice. Certainly, the weather's got to be pretty nice, especially in the winter if you're taking that trip then, being down toward the equator. If you want to let us know why Panama, I'm really intrigued to hear, because that does sound like a cool choice, but just not necessarily a choice I think I would have expected to hear off the jump. Producer Christian, what about you? What's your go-to location here? And I'll throw it out to the folks at home. Switzerland to go skiing. That's can't go wrong with that. And probably about no better place in the world outside of maybe Colorado to go do some awesome skiing. For me personally, this is my hot take. Send me up to the coast of Maine. I'm going to spend a long weekend doing nothing but eating warm lobster roll and having oysters, and it's going to be just a lovely time. I will consume a concerning amount of lobsters and oysters when I'm up there. And, I would love to go back at some point, because when I went a few years ago, this was a dream. But This field, the lights are off on the pace car, so the field's stacked up, ready to get going once again. Reese Bayham and Logan Smith still have not come down pit road yet. With the amount of pacing, the fuel window was expected to be about 10 laps ago, and they are still out there on the racetrack logging laps. At some point, I got to wonder when they are thinking about coming down pit road, because it's got to be soon. Even under yellow, you can only stretch it so far. But they're out front. Matthew Morton, Keaton Kallick, row 2, Brandon Schulenberger, Tyler Skozen, Garrett Vighton, Edwin Onofre, Maverick Davis back into the mix, and Riley Birkins up from 40th now into the top 10 as we get ready. Oh, and they've extended the... I thought the lights were off on the pace car. The lights are back on. They extended it a lap, I think. Oh, dear. They're trying to get this field stacked back up, and you can see there's still cars coming off at turn 3. All right, well... I guess we're going to give it another lap here to try to get things situated. But how about, while we have a second here, the honest conversation about the race, let's pull up the big movers so far, if we could, Producer Christian, because there has been some phenomenal movers through the field, and we just haven't been able to talk about them a ton with the amount of stop and start. But Riley Birkins is up from 40th now to the 10th position. Carter Capini, despite the troubles that the 14 has had tonight, he currently finds himself in the 18th position. Ethan Decatur, same deal. Zach Tallman, plus 17. And then Brandon Schulenberger, who qualified for this event 17th. He's now up into the top 5. And, he came into today only a handful of points back of Matthew Morton. And Morton runs 4th, or actually 3rd. You can see there, the car behind Morton is Schulenberger. So those two cars, came into today pretty close on points and still find themselves pretty close on the racetrack here, all things considered. It's shaping up to be a pretty interesting battle if they're able to keep up this.
You can see standings now on the right side of your screen, and
that's coming. It's worth noting that's coming into tonight's race.
Correct. Yes, not live as of right now, but you can see a lot of these guys up at the front. Obviously, in the top 10, Edwin Onofre, Brandon Schulenberger, Matthew Morton. And, a couple other drivers to keep their hopes alive, trying to gain some positions. You saw Aaron Brown had some troubles 2 cautions ago, so we'll see what the rest of the field can bring here today. But right now, Auburn has that front row on lock on those older tires. Reese Bayham, Logan Smith bringing us to the line. Pace car goes down pit road, and we are back underway here in the Pocono Mountains. It looks like Reese Bayham getting a huge push from Matthew Morton.
Bayham got shot out of a cannon with a big push from the 5. He'll clear his teammate. Morton now going to take a peek to the inside. He got right to the apron to the inside of Reese Bayham for the lead here in turns 1 and 2. Schulenberger going to try to follow him through as they are 5 wide to the middle of turn 1. Everyone trying to sort that out. Looks like miraculously they do. Morton, though, has not cleared Bayham for the lead. Oh, and Jack Clemens sideways going off the back end of the racetrack. Looks like he had Miguel Carrero with him. And that is, I think, going to bring out the... Oh, and there's now Doug Newbinging sideways through the middle of turn 2. That is going to bring out the caution once again. And I don't know. I haven't officially been keeping track, but I think that's got to be caution number 8 or 9 here tonight.
Well,
that's what officially threw the yellow, but I actually think the worst incident was with Doug Newbinging out in turn 2. The 07 got all types of spun around in a not great part of the racetrack. See here, he's in the middle of 3 wide. Just in front of that, Kelton Quick, Ben Neller flanking him. Oh, that car just snapped on him.
Yeah, he tried to send it in there, and Ethan Decatur hard into, 97. Also hard into the King's College machine. You can see now stuck on the front bumper, trying to safely get down onto the apron and try to clear himself. And I don't think it was for the 07, but unfortunately for a couple others in this field, it's going to end up with a lot more damage than what they were hoping for. Gavin Brooks is going to be the one out of Delaware that hopefully didn't get too much damage. I know he's been stuck in a couple of these incidents already today. And, being so close to Delaware, it seems like Gavin Brooks is getting involved in a lot of these unfortunate accidents. And it looks like everyone still on the track. We still got 34 cars on the lead lap as it stands right now. And back to your point, Alex, did you think of anything else to talk about during this caution? I know you've been to Pocono, and
yeah.
I know that my only memory of Pocono right now that comes to mind, I've never been there, but was when Casey Kane, I think it was Casey Kane, absolutely obliterated his car on the open piece of pit lane, if I can remember correctly.
Oh,
here.
yeah, that was pretty gnarly. That was bad.
That is my only memory of Pocono that isn't, I guess that would be quote unquote, crazy. All the rest have just been races. But to your point, Alex, how is Pocono, the parking situation and everything that's to this great place?
So here's the fun thing with Pocono, funny enough, is that even though it's a 2.5 miler, you do get to see a decent bit of the racetrack just because of the fact that the front straightaway is so long that you get to see a lot of what's happening going into turn 3, out into the front straightaway, and about 2/3 of turn 1. However, what you don't necessarily see is that tunnel turn. There's a slight elevation change going back through turn 2. So unless you're sitting way up at the top, you basically just see cars disappear for a second as they go into turn 2, which sounds fine. It's only like a second or two that they're back there. Except for, as you've seen tonight, turn 2 is where a lot of incidents really happen on the racetrack. So all of a sudden, you'll see a bunch of smoke kick up, and all of a sudden the yellow lights go on, and you're like, whoa, what happened? And you're looking over, and you just don't see it. You just can't tell. But it was a pretty cool place to see a race. Getting in and out is a little tough because it's up in the mountains, and it's not particularly near anything. It's kind of just like a one road in, one road out. And it certainly takes a minute to get anywhere in or out of the racetrack, but overall, not too bad. I hear the camping experience is pretty cool. Haven't done that. Would like to at some point, though. And you see here about 30 laps to go next time by. And I'm starting to do the math. All of a sudden, there does feel to be a bit of a concern about the time. So every CIL session is allotted for a 2-hour time block. And the race typically, if everything goes fine and good, takes up an hour 20, hour 30. Nothing too crazy. Well, right now, with still 30 laps to go, we have 46 minutes left in this session, which means we've used about an hour 15 for the opening 50 laps. So we're kicking off about the exact rate of laps per minute necessary that the timer would run out right at the end of this race as things are going. Shouldn't be a concern yet, but just something that we're kind of monitoring up here in the booth. That is starting to become a potential factor, and because it's Pocono, I always love the joke that it's actually fog is on its way in about 45 minutes from now. Chris Buescher getting his first career win due to the one and currently still only fog-shortened race in the history of the Cup Series. But
this whole time I was, you were talking there, I remembered somebody saying catch fences were an upgrade for Pocono. I was trying to remember back in like the 2000s, those races, if there was a catch fence. And again, Casey Kane, and just, I guess here at Pocono, he likes to make stuff happen, aka upgrades, as, the straightaways didn't have catch fences until his incident. So, they're going about 200 miles an hour down this track, and there was potential they could just, fly out of the track and go into a tree. Until 2010, which is kind of crazy to my mind.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Pocono, especially with IndyCar, has had a pretty gnarly history, but it is still one of the more iconic venues here in North America as the pace car peels off. Matthew Morton, Brandon Schulenberger, your front row. The car is the top 2 in points and the top 2 on the racetrack right now. As this thing gets back to green, Morton jumps to the point. Schulenberger settles into second. Kalick, Skozen, and Viton, your top 5.
Keegan Kalick looking for that second spot on the podium right now. The St. Clair machine able to slide up in line now behind Brandon Schollenberger. They're 3 wide for 5th place as it looks like Maverick Davis is able to make his way back up through this field, but now he's not going to have any draft support. Tyler Scozen and Edwin Onofre get into that outside line, but that's going to help Maverick Davis keep that inside line through the tunnel turn. He's going to be able to take 6th position away from Garrett Fighton. Sorry, I thought that was somebody else, but Matthew Norberg down.
They tried going from 4 wide to 3 wide, and they are piling into each other in turn 3.
Looks like, Zach
Dear
Coleman
Lord.
involved. Oh, Aaron Brown.
Yeah, there was a lot of cars caught up in that one, and that started, oh boy, the Aaron Brown machine, absolutely, the front end of that caved in. That started with Matthew Nordberg in the 076 getting sideways because he was at the bottom of a 4 wide situation that was rapidly becoming a 3 wide situation that they just weren't quite settled down in yet. Boy, heavy damage to the 16, and I know he's not the only one.
I mean, yeah, that front. Oh, yeah, he's trying to get into the pit box. You could see, obviously, visibly frustrated. And now taking it back to the garage, as I think a lot of cars are definitely done for the day from this one. And it all started back to the Wolfpack, and as you said, Alex, they were trying some 4 wide action coming through the tunnel turn into turn 3. A lot going on, obviously. With this being a wide track, Talladega, was a wide track last week, but that was restrictor plate. We're here at Pocono where all these guys are still trying to maybe use that restrictor plate creativity. And you can see it ended up as Ben Neller around, also involved in this. Nick Stockner gets kicked around.
Well, has there been 2 drivers with worse luck tonight than Ben Neller and Aaron Brown? I feel like they've been caught up in every other thing that we've been catching a replay on, man. That's wild. But here's the initial bit of contact. Riley Perkins, Nick Stockner, Daniel Nanny, Matthew Nordberg were the 4 cars in that 4 wide situation. Somehow all 4 of them basically get away from that scot-free. It's everyone behind them who gets piled in, more or less.
And obviously with that strategy call you saw the 2 Auburn cars back there that had to fend for themselves through all this. You see just getting everyone squeezed together. And I don't think Norberg really got the call 4 wide. Nonetheless, you're not expecting 4 wide going into turn 3 here, but you can see the 076 able to keep on going with others wrapped around the outside wall. I think Daniel Nanny was able to get out of that relatively unscathed, but nonetheless, yet again, we are back under caution here in the Poconos.
That we are. So we're going to take a quick step aside in just a moment. When we come back, continued coverage of tonight's event, Race 6 of the YumTwo College Cup Series season. We'll be back in just a moment.
When you're behind the wheel, you need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
Welcome back, folks. Next time by will be 25 laps to go here from Pocono Raceway. Matthew Morton, the points leader, has the lead as we sit, but currently second in the points. Brandon Schulenberger right on his tail on the outside of that front row. Keegan Callett, Kyler Skozen, Edwin Onofre, Maverick Davis, who's gone from back to the front here today, trying to go back-to-back after winning last week at Talladega. He's 6th. Halterman, Garrett Vighton, Sean Campbell, Riley Perkins, your top 10 as they sit. And also shout out Brennan Lyman, who got caught up in the initial incident of this race back on lap 1. He has repaired that car and rallied up to 13th now on the racetrack. As the pace car peels off down pit road, green flag is back in the air. We are racing once again, and we'll see how aggressive they get in the turn 1. The old adage is cautions breed cautions, and that's been the theme basically all evening long as we dive into turn 1. A little bit of 3 wide up there. Skozen in the middle of Onofre and Davis. Same with Vighton in the middle of that. And oh, they almost got together. Oh, and someone's spinning way at the tail end of the field. Logan McKim got turned off the nose, I think, of the 124 as Stockner. Yeah, that's going to bring out the yellow. So, you know, here we are once again. That was the 10 of Logan McKim, who got sideways off of turn 1. I think he got a little bit of help, though, as the 124 of Nick Stockner was right there as well, and I think the two made contact.
Oh, man, oh, man. Jack Clements apparently has pitted 13 times, according to producer Christian. And I don't, that has to be just for going in for repairs periodically, but Jack Clements trying to set a world record of how many times.
Yeah, I'm not seeing 13. Granted, I am seeing 8, which is still a lot, but I'm not seeing 13 on mine.
He might be our
the most I've seen of anybody is Logan McKim at 10. You and I have very different readings of how many times people have been down pit road. So I'm going to go with whatever's on your screen as you're the one producing the show. I think mine might just be wrong, but let's see if we can take a look at this replay, see what happened to Logan McKim here coming off of turn 1. That car got some significant front-end damage from that incident. And I'm pretty sure it's just a matter of he gets caught up here with Nick Stockner on the restart. So you see McKim down the way, a little bit slower, probably because of that front-end damage as the cars fan out 3 wide in front of him. And then watch that orange and purple 124 just behind him. These two are going to get together coming off the exit of turn 1 here.
You can see both of them have been in some damage today, and it looks like the 124 gets up in 2. Logan McKim sends the 10 around to the inside wall, and Stockner just having to sit and wait and see what the stewards give him or not give him. We'll see. But we'll take an onboard shot here. You can see the Clemson, Nick Stockner from Clemson was catching up to the field there and just, sitting back, waiting for everything. And unfortunately, pretty much the only car that got near the 124 through turn 1 ended up off the front bumper, as you see riding along now, going into turn 1, taking that lower line, and now looks like he's catching up to the 10, and the 10, I think maybe the 124 thought the 10 was going to get back into the gas, or at least have a little bit more of a run coming out of turn 1, maybe a little lower than what he thought as well. All those variables could have came into the thought, but nonetheless, he's going to end up getting a EOL, as you see at the top of your screen, a penalty for the avoidable contact with Logan McKim.
Yeah, and that is, he was already at the tail end of the field, so it's not really going to set him back a ton. But same for the 10, both of them back there. As you see, I think that's Gavin Brooks, the Delaware car, getting a lap back here. So as we currently run, we have just about 33 cars on the lead lap. And then a couple more cars who are off the lead lap but still on the racetrack. Gavin Brooks, the most recent of which, who goes from 4 laps down to 3 laps down now with that free pass. And I'm looking at this this top group, and someone who's we talked about it a little bit earlier, and then we kind of got away from it, mostly because we've been doing a lot of stuff under yellow here. Edward Sanchez took 2 tires at that last major pit cycle that saw most of the field come down. He restarted 14th at that moment in time. He is still 14th. Now, have we run a lot of green flag laps? Not necessarily. But clearly it is a somewhat viable option that, he at least has that restart speed that he needs. So there is that 26 machine still running in that 14th position. Started all the way back in 38th. He's up to the 14th position now. And yeah, I can't say I blame you there, Edward. This has been one of those events where it's just, all right, let's try to have someone settle in, settle down, and get the racing, which has been easier said than done here tonight. So, Bram, I have to ask you, because we both have been in races like this where it's just been a lot of time under yellow, very little time actually racing under green flag conditions. How do you stay focused in a race like this where there's so much time where you don't have to be dialed in, but you have to be cognizant, at least to some degree, that at any given point, the field could just figure it out and then it could go green for a while? How do you stay locked in and cognizant of that fact when you have a race like this that is just constantly restart after restart?
I think if you have a spotter or you're talking, or at least in a call with somebody, that you can have fun with it, at least talk and have a little bit of, keep your energy up, at least keep you attentive, just talking back and forth, even if it's about racing, not about racing, kind of like the broadcasts. You can have tangents where you're not talking about the race at hand, and obviously it keeps you attentive, keeps you focused, keeps you dialed in nonetheless. And I think for everyone here, just keeping yourself prepared for at least maybe a green flag run, and just remembering what that feels like. A lot of these drivers had a lot of practice on these green flag runs. Also, we had a point of emphasis of green flag pit stops. Obviously, it's not going to happen at this point in the race, but I think a lot of people are also changing up their strategies. I think there's a couple people that still are trying to play a little bit of fuel mileage and maybe trying to conserve some tire for later stages of this race. You see pace car back into the pits, and now Matthew Morton, Brandon Solberg is back again on that front row, and you see Matthew Morton getting a huge jump going into turn 1 yet again.
And now Carr is going to duke it out just a little bit further behind, side by side there. That is Keegan Kalick in the 29, looking to the inside with Schulenberger for second. Cummings and Riley Birkins leaning on each other off of turn 1. That was the battle for about 10th or so. They were fully door-to-door coming off of turn 1. And this field, just like a swarm of bees now into the tunnel turn, kicking up all the available real estate, trying to get this thing sorted out. Looks like they will for now. And here we go through turn 3. This is the question mark. Will they get through the full lap and actually have a second to try to settle in here? It's taken a couple of attempts these past few times. Looks like we will, though. So Morton going to lead with 20 laps to go. Schulenberger sits second. Davis, Kalick, and Skozen are your top 5 right now as they run.
And you probably saw it on that first lap that a lot of these guys are just driving based on the car in front of them, and a couple of those cars hit the wall, and as a chain reaction, those that are driving, oh geez, I think I saw Matthew Norberg just hit the outside wall as well. But a couple other guys, jump into that inside wall if the car in front of them does, and it's just a chain reaction for those people that are really driving like that. And I think that also tends to happen when you have a race like this where you're strained, you're not really that attentive, you're kind of just basing yourself off the car ahead. And I think a lot of those drivers that hit the outside wall obviously woke themselves up by hitting it and keep on going. As we see, it looks like Sean Campbell and Edwin Onofre are really the only two side-by-side after these 2 green flag runs. And as I say that, they fall back in line. And now Clint Halterman looking to the inside of Daniel Nanny for that 8th place position. These two have battled each other time and time again throughout the CIL, and now it looks like Clinton Halterman's the only one on that inside line. The only great thing that he's going to be able to do on that inside, he's almost cleared Sean Campbell, but now he's going to be stranded on that inside line. and now he's going to fall back, probably behind Daniel Nanny. You can see Sean jumping out a little bit to see where the corner is coming. You can see also those cones on the catch fence to help the drivers see when the braking zones is. And now Clint Haldeman back in line behind Daniel Nanny. Looks like Brendan Lyman, we talked about him a little bit, in the top 10, now looking for 9th.
Yeah, Brendan Lyman, what a rally it's been for the 78 machine. Lyman caught some early damage in this race, had to spend a lot of time repairing his. Clint Haldeman just absolutely knocking down the turn 3 fence. He bounced off that thing 2 or 3 times as he's trying to hold on to 10th place right now. Battling with Brendan Lyman, the Oklahoma Panhandle State machine to the bottom, UNC Charlotte up high. They are side by side coming off the corner, almost ran out of real estate. Oh, it's Garrett Vighton into the inside wall off of turn 1. Matthew Nordberg, Trey Lamprecht around as well, but the 055 of Garrett Vighton, heavy contact coming off of turn 1, and that might be a day ender for the 055. Yeah, you can tell he's frustrated with that one.
And right now we have 3 in-car cameras, and so far 2 of the 3, it's not a good thing to have an in-car camera. I think Edward Sanchez might be sweating bullets right now if we have anything to say so far during this race. But right now, Matthew Morton obviously controlling the race. He's been up there all day, and we'll see what happened. Back here, further back in the pack to the Arizona State machine, and see what else the Sun Devils machine got into.
Yeah, he was running just outside the top 10 for the majority of the day. Was running just outside the top 10 here. Was running about 13th at the time. And, looks like he was trying to get out of the throttle a little bit to avoid getting off the wall in 1. And subsequently, Sanchez, I think, was getting up the speed, and the 2 of them just kind of met there. The 26 makes contact with that quarter panel, the 055, and around Vighton goes. Take a look here. Nordberg deeper in this field. And this is how the other 2 cars get involved. He makes contact with Trey Lamprecht. The 2 of them go for a ride. But they all kind of end up right around where Vighton was. So 2 separate incidents. They all kind of start and end in the same place here at the same time. And with that, we're going to step aside for a brief commercial break. When we come back, we'll be commercial free to the finish here of this one from Pocono. We'll be back in just a moment.
When you're behind the wheel, you need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, folks. I'll be going green this time by, but we want to remind you you're watching the YumTwo College Cup Series here live on the CIL YouTube. YumTwo makes cooking fun again, designed for couples to plan meals, follow recipes, and bond over cooking together. You can join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com. That is YumTwo.com. And we are now in the closing stretch of this one. When they go green, it'll be 14 laps to go here from Pocono. Should be a fun one here to the finish, especially if they're able to keep themselves off the wall for any modicum of time. But we only got about 35 miles left in this 200-mile race. Right now, Matthew Morton in the prime place to be, but he has put 36 laps on since the last time he's been down pit road. If this suddenly starts to go green, there may be some concerns for the fuel situation, but that'll be a situation for if that comes up. As the green flag's back in the air, it'll be Morton leading the inside road. Got a great push from Maverick Davis and Tyler Skozen. And now Davis jumps to the outside. He's looking to maybe go side by side the highway around Morton here. Not going to quite get there, but he moves his way up to second as Skozen looks to the inside of Schulenberger for third. And they are 3 wide behind him. Halterman trapped in the middle of Onofre and company.
Onofre is going to get no draft support on that third lane. He's going to have to fall behind Clint Halterman. But right now, Maverick Davis looking to the inside of Matthew Morton through the tunnel turn. He's got a nose ahead coming out of turn 2, but Morton has that run coming down the backstretch. As they enter turn 3, almost nose to nose, Maverick gets that little bit of a jump on the inside lane. The 15 looking and looking, but right now the 5 is pinching that 15 down as close as he can to that yellow line. These two are door to door coming out of 3 and across the line, almost nose to nose. Morton's going to take that lap, but still the 15 is able to hang on with no side or no one really behind him. Brandon Schulenberger inching ever so closely as they dive it into 1. The 15 looks like he's going to be able to clear, and now Brandon Schulenberger looking to the inside of the 5.
Yeah, Morton went high in turn 1. That gives the advantage to Maverick Davis for the first time today. Is now Morton going to swing to the inside. Oh, they're dooring each other going into turn 2. Oh, they're wrecking. Oh, it's a wreck into turn 2 between the leaders. And Brennan Lyman hard into the wall. That all started. Morton made a move to the inside to go into turn 2. Davis didn't work his way up the racetrack, so I think Morton was trying to force him up the racetrack so there was an angle to try to make the corner, and the two of them get tangled up and spin into that outside wall, and then just behind him at the better part of about 160 miles an hour, Brennan Lyman came flying in and absolutely totaled the front end of that 78 car.
That was... That'll wake you up. That was an insane sequence of events. I mean, those two were getting aggressive going throughout that prior lap, but really, I thought, I didn't think he had that type of run. You can see Matthew Morton, we saw it all happen live. He looked to the inside, and like Alex said, a little bit of door bumping, and I think Morton, just thought there was, a little bit more room trying to push that 15 a little bit more further up the track. And then the 78 of Brendan Lyman off the front of Doug Newbigging, just trying to slow down because of the caution. And it looks like the King's College machine just gets into the back of the Panhandle machine and ends up onto the outside of turn 2.
A lot of the wrecks we've seen tonight have been from the back part of the field. Every car who was pulling up in this one was running inside the top 10 at the time of caution, including the 2 cars who were at the front of this race. Matthew Morton, Maverick Davis, both guys who were in the top 5s in the standings, both guys with wins this season, completely getting wiped out there. Morton is now currently being scored in the 21st position, Maverick Davis in the 15th. Or actually, it looks like Morton's getting through some cars here, same with Davis. So they might be trying to find their place in line, but boy howdy, was that a really interesting turn of events, as it looks like both of them are going to try to bring it down pit road, I think, to repair some damage. And I'm looking at the top 10 right now, Brad. And I have some interesting thoughts, because now Brandon Schulenberger and Keegan Kallick, who I don't think we've talked about enough tonight, how good of a job he's done keeping himself in the mix up front. But both of them, the last time they were down pit road was lap 30, which was 40 laps ago. There's been a lot of cautions, and we saw Reese Bayham and Logan Smith get about 47 or 48 laps on that window of fuel because of those cautions. Even if they were to get that much, they would still be a few laps short here. They may have something in the tank here, because this has been a lot of pacing, but I don't know. It still feels like it's just a little too much to ask for, maybe, at least from my opinion up here in the booth. And then you have Daniel Nanny, Sean Campbell, and Clint Halterman, 3rd, 4th, and 5th now, who are all who last pit 29 laps ago, which I would feel far more confident in them being able to make it to the end. I don't know. They don't have the track position on Schulenberger and Kallick, but I just don't think that the 7 or the 29 could make it on fuel. If they did, I'd be floored. Just because the estimated fuel window under green is about 38 laps. They've already run 40, and they'd have to try to stretch this thing to 50.
Yeah, I don't know. That's definitely a judgment call from them. I mean, they didn't go down pit road, so their crew chief, their team is telling them at least something like save, and they should be able to make it, because I doubt you stay out knowing you're not going to make it to the end, especially considering this might be a green-white checkered maybe at the end of this thing. I mean, Brandon Schulenberger now in a prime position to take the points lead with everything as it stands right now. He was only 7 points behind Matthew Morton and now has a prime chance to pounce, and Daniel Nanny right behind him, also someone who's trying to pounce on top of the fact that Matthew Morton in that last caution, everything that just happened there opened the door wide open for these two. But Keegan Kallick, yeah, somebody we haven't talked too much about today and having a great run. And I think this will be their first time on the front row. So see if they can get a big jump on the Wingate machine. But Brandon Schulenberger has been on the front row, I believe, for the last 4 cautions. So a little bit of a difference in experience with this front row restarts here at Pocono here today. That's the one thing that, Alex, we were talking about trying to at least gain something from today. At least these guys are definitely trying to understand the restart zones, how to get a good jump. I think Brandon Schulenberger knows how to do it now. With being on that outside lane, he gets to be the advantageous spot of the inside lane, get that great jump. And Keegan, we'll see what Keegan can do. I think the St. Clair machine will have, we'll see what happens. But, Daniel Nanny is right there, and I don't think, Daniel Nanny is going to, just let the door be open for the 29 to fall in line. So we'll see what happens here going into turn 1. But especially with 10 to go on the race here today, I think a lot of these guys are going to have to try and make their moves now and hopefully, try to make them safer.
Yeah, no, to your point, Daniel Nanny, winner of the previous 2 Pocono races here in the College Cup Series, could today be the day, but he goes 3 in a row at it. I don't know the exact number at the moment, but it's not often we've seen one driver win to the track multiple times in a row, let alone 3 times in a row. That would be a pretty impressive feat from the Ball State driver. You see as the pace car going to peel off now. Schulenberger Kalick ready to go. Green flag back in the air. 9 laps remaining here from Pocono. And here we go. Schulenberger slides in front of the 29. He's going to hold point at the moment. Daniel Nanny slides up to second. He's going to be looking for more into turn 1. He's right to the back bumper, but he also has Clint Halterman right to his back bumper.
Ooh, it looks like Doug Newbing hits the wall back there, but everyone's single file in the podium positions. It looks like Clint Halterman now is on that outside as Sean Campbell is left stranded on the inside, but coming through the tunnel turn, he's going to have that little bit of advantage going through. But right now, those two nose to nose. Everything else kind of filed out. Oh, the Ethan Decatur around.
The 111 of Ethan Decatur sideways off at turn 2. Contact there late with Logan McKim. Don't entirely know what happened there with the 10. But the 111 of Ethan Decatur, heavy damage now to the Valpo machine, which is going to bring out another caution here today. It's been just one of those kind of nights. Never so often on iRacing you'll get those where it's just no matter what you can do, you're going to end up pacing around. We've only got 8 laps to go, but we may be shaping up for a green-white checkered at the rate we're going. See, we'll take a look here at the 111, and this will be coming through turns 2, so this right through here. And looks like it may have had a little bit of help from Ben Neller, but I think the other part of it was that car was already a little bit loose. The back end was already starting to outrun the front just a little bit already coming through turn 2, and then the 79 and Neller gave him a little bit of an extra shove here.
And yeah, just looking on the back bumper here of Ethan Decatur, the Valpo machine getting, yeah, you can see a little bit of a bump, and it looks like accordion effect back through that bottom line as the 111 gets sent around, heading along into that inside wall and back onto the track where, unfortunately, Logan McKim also piles on to the damage. Trying to lock it down, you can see the smoke coming out of the back. But fortunately for both of those cars, a hard hit at the end of this whole thing. And as Limp Bizkit once said, it's just one of those days. I won't finish the rest of that, but...
Well, and also in the words of Limp Bizkit, all we've been doing today is rolling, rolling, rolling. We haven't really been going at speed for most of the day. And it is worth noting, you know, we talked about it probably about 35 minutes ago. It's worth bringing up now. Sessions here in the College Cup Series scheduled for 2 hours to cover the full distance of the race. And typically that is enough time to get these races in, but in nights like tonight where it's been particularly caution heavy and the rate of the race has been significantly slowed, may end on time. It's something we're monitoring at the moment. About 11 minutes left in the session here to try to wrap this thing up. 7 laps to go. If they go green here with, say, 4 laps to go, I think they can get it in. But if there was another caution or we had to go to a green-white checkered, then all of a sudden I'm thinking we may find ourselves in a time situation that will end this race. Really, really interesting to see how this is going to shape up. Only a few laps left here. Schulenberger is now going to have to defend, though, against Daniel Nanny, who's on 11-lap fresher tires on that outside row. The outside row has had a awful time, though, on restarts here tonight. It's been really tough.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of these guys, Keegan Kalick was unfortunately lost that position to Daniel Nanny on that outside lane, and I think Daniel Nanny, if you have anyone on the outside lane that might make it work, it's going to be that 30 car. And Brandon Schulenberger, I mean, both of these guys right now currently 1-2 in the points as it stands. So this is pretty much the race for the top step of the standings here in the YumTwo College Cup Series. So these guys are going to try and figure it out. And I think right now Brandon Schulenberger is going to try and, hold on for this win here at Pocono and try to avoid a three-peat here from Ball State and Daniel Nanny's crew. So, as we're going to 1 to go, I believe here, Alex, going back to some laid-back conversation, it's getting into fall real quick. What's your favorite type of soup? And, any unique soup that you like or just your favorite overall?
one of my go-to soup that we make, Italian wedding soup. Get the meatballs, get the noodles in there. That's really good. Go-to soup to order somewhere though, gonna be a little broccoli cheddar action. That's where I think it's at. And I think especially at a place like Pocono up in the mountains, a little broccoli cheddar, that'd be really nice. What about you?
Oh yeah, I think both of those are good. Those probably my top 5. I think my main option or my main choice would be like a loaded baked potato soup.
Oh, all right, yeah.
But also French onion soup is that's probably if I need a meal for a soup. That's
yeah. Very true. Producer Christian, how about you? What's your go-to soup choice coming this time of year? Red pepper Gouda. See, I was really getting on your case about the mint chocolate chip and orange soda thing. That soup, though, sounds phenomenal. So I think it's good to know that, you know, you haven't completely lost your way in the culinary scene here. But when we go green here, it'll be 5 laps to go from Pocono. Brandon Schulenberger looking for his first win since Las Vegas 2 seasons ago. Daniel Nenny trying to get his first win of the season to follow up his championship campaign from last year. And don't look now, but Keegan Kallick trying to find his first win ever here in the College Cup Series. And Sean Campbell, it's been a long time since we've seen him in victory lane here. You have to go all the way back to Season 4 Auto Club to see that number 9 machine in victory lane in the YumTwo College Cup Series. He's had plenty of success on the roadside. But here we go, pace car off. Green flag, back in the air. Schulenberger dives low to separate from the side draft. It looks like he'll have the advantage temporarily over Daniel Nanny. But here we go in the 1. Does the 30 have anything to say about that?
Schulenberger's going to get up there to get that great angle in the 1. It looks like Keegan Kallick has that inside line on Daniel Nanny, but Nanny's going to get that run coming out of 1. Oh, more action in the back. Brian Ferretta hard into the wall. A lot of cars around.
Brian Ferretta hard into the wall to Long, Logan, Smith, and more. And producer Christian, I think it's time to flip over from the lap counter to the time counter at this point. That may have been what sealed it there. That was a massive bit of contact. Holy cow. Brian Ferretta, that car I think has damage on every corner of the race car.
That was a vicious hit into that inside wall. And yet again, I mean, coming out of turn 1, that's probably the scariest part, in my opinion, of this track to race. I mean, you still got a good bit of speed going in the 1, and you're trying to get that car back down under control. And, you know, at the same time, there's not too much banking here, but it's turn 1 has the most amount of banking, and yet that doesn't feel like a ton. As we jump back here to Brian Ferretta, you can just see all the carnage. Matthew Morton, and Logan Smith also getting a good look into that inside wall. We're going to jump here to the 34 of Logan Smith, right behind Brian Ferretta. You can see coming out of turn 1, it looks like Zach Tallman might have actually been the start of this whole thing, I believe, as he hits the outside wall, gets into Kelton quick, and then just an absolute domino effect and snowball and Austin DeLong, Matt Norberg. Oh, you could just keep saying names. I feel like anyone that was back behind the top 20 had a 50% shot of getting in this thing.
Yeah, I think Wesley Shaw took a pretty gnarly shot there as well. One more look at it here from the Skycam. Keep your eye on that blue and white 71 on the top of your screen. He's going to get into the fence here off of 1, and that swings him down into Kelton Quick, Brian Ferretta, and Logan Smith. And as those 3 cars go around, Quick goes sideways in front of teammate Ben Neller. Logan Smith gets up to the walls. Ferretta spins around collecting Sanchez. Nordberg gets caught up in it as Trey Lamprecht piles in from behind. Somehow, I think Ethan Head and Maverick Davis were able to slide through that scot-free. That must have been a scary turn of events there for the 15 and the 8. See Logan Smith spinning, the hood up on the 076 and Nordberg. I mean, honestly, for the amount of yellows we've had here tonight, Brad, that probably was the biggest wreck that we've had.
Definitely. I think that definitely was the hardest hitting on the most amount of cars. Definitely involved the most amount of cars. As you see Matthew Norberg's cars waving to the fans as it's driving down turn 3 here.
Holy cow! It really is. He's given the drive-by salute here. It's the 076. That hood popped up in front of the screen. I mean, it's going to be tough to see where anything is. And visibility is basically zero when your hood's up that high.
I didn't even think of that part. Oh, there he goes. Into the outside wall to beach it. I think there it goes back down. Now Nordberg can see. I was going to say, let's see how long after Nordberg's able to drive around without seeing anywhere.
And that was about half a lap. Oh, it was pretty impressive.
Very
He's
much
on pit road now. And you see the time remaining in the session scored at 3:20, about 3:20 here. We have technically listed as 3 laps to go. However, I do believe the session will expire before the lap counter will conclude here tonight. So that is why we have flipped over to the time, especially with the lights out on the pace car.
Now,
I was waiting to hear from iRacing when they come around here, because pace laps, Brad, you've been saying, have been about 2 minutes. The time will expire after the next pace lap, but how close do they get to the 2 minutes here? Do they throw the white flag this time or not, I guess, is the question, because that would determine whether or not they try to get back racing here.
and a little recency bias, if you think back to Nashville, Alex, I know you weren't on the tower here for that race, but it ended on time, but it was a weird set of circumstances that even us in the booth and even the stewards couldn't figure out why, iRacing did what it did. But it looks like they're giving the one to go. Yeah, and about all of 15 seconds are going to be left on the clock once it goes green. So in my mind, in my thought, and Alex, you can go against this. I mean, I think there's going to be a one-lap shootout.
Yeah, they've just listed it as a green-white checkered here, so we are heading into CIL overtime. Only one attempt at it. Under normal circumstances, they have a 2-lap shootout to try to finish this. Next flag would end the race, whether it's the checkered or the caution. But the time element is going to throw an interesting wrench in things, because they're going to try to get this going, but then I think it might, to your point, it might just be the 1-lap shootout, because I don't know how accommodating iRacing is with the green-white checkered as far as the session ending. We'll see. We'll see. We'll let you know when we hear officially from iRacing what it's going to be doing.
We can guarantee 1 lap.
Yeah,
That's
guarantee 1. I think it's going to be the full 2, barring a caution. Well, if there's a caution on the first lap, then it doesn't matter about the time. So here we go. Lights are off. 1 minute still on the timer, which means they will take they will take the green flag with still time on there, but I think it might just be the 1. Who knows? Either way, worth shouting out while we have a second just in case that this green-white checkered is brought to you by the Longland Corporation. Whether it is your car, truck, or SUV, you can check out Napa and get the Napa know-how for all of your automotive needs. Pace car peels off. Here we go. Green flag is back in the air. Nanny and Schulenberger, they're going to duke it out for a race win here at Pocono. Look at how far they're fanning down into the entrance.
I mean, at any point, this race can be over, so Schulenberger just has to try and do anything he can to stay ahead of Nanny. As I say that, Nanny dives it in the 1, gets a nose ahead. Schulenberger on that bottom line keeps it nose to nose with the 30, but the 30 has the advantage coming out of turn 1. The 7's going to end up behind him, and now Daniel Nanny's going to get outside of the draft, so the 7 is now going to look to the outside and not get any type of advantage. Sean Campbell able to get back up, and now Keegan Kay looking to the inside.
Yeah, Campbell had to get out of the throttle just a hair when the 7 came down a second ago. Everything turning up positive right now. If you're the 30 of Daniel Nanny, white flag is out this time around. This is presented by the Longland Corporation as we are running down the front straightaway here. Oh, wait. Now we're all right, this is getting weird. So now we're seeing the checkered because the time has expired. Even though on our screen, even coming through turn 3, it was still saying we were 2 laps to go. Well, I guess. All right. Well, we apologize here, folks. iRacing has been incredibly unhelpful when it comes to trying to figure this out, but your winner here today, and for the third time in 4 Pocono races, Daniel Nanny of Ball State University is going to go back to back to back, and he is going to pick up the win here at Pocono tonight. And he'll get his first win of the season coming off of that historic Season 12 campaign. Looks like Brandon Schulenberger and Keegan Kalick are going to hold on to the podium positions as things were scored when iRacing stopped timing and scoring. And what has already been a pretty weird race ends in the most confusing of fashions.
And with this finish, I mean, Daniel Nanny, Brandon Schulenberger, 1-2. That's going to make the points even more closer. I think Nanny right now has a little bit of an edge, and is going to be able to lead the standings as we go into the halfway mark.
So Daniel Nanny burning it down on the front straightaway. We'll be talking to him and our other podium finishers here in just a second. When we come back, it will be interviews with your podium finishers, and it will be your final race results, unofficial race results here for Pocono in just a moment. We'll be back right after this.
When you're behind the wheel, you need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
All right, folks, we are back here from a wacky one here at Pocono here tonight. What a bizarre way to wrap this one up. They started the green-white checkered, but then the session ran out of time, so they only ran the one lap of the green-white checkered. We're still confirming the official results, but I do believe it is Daniel Nanny who picked up the win. So let me trying to actually say none of these folks are actually in the waiting room. So let's just do the results here. Results coming up on your screen. Daniel Nanny, your race winner unofficially here tonight. Brandon Schulenberger second. Keegan Kalick third. Sean Campbell finishes fourth tonight for North Carolina Greensboro, with Clint Haltman finishing fifth. Jake Cummings in the sixth position, just ahead of Tyler Skozen. Edwin Onofre keeps up his run of good finishes with an eighth place finish, just ahead of Doug Newbigging. And Reese Bayham will stay in the top 10 in points with a top 10 finish here tonight.
In 11th, we have Connor Zabosian from Kettering. And in 12th, Cade Corbin from the University of Alabama, Huntsville. Riley Perkins from New England College made their trek all the way up to 13th. And in 14th, Edward Sanchez from Baruch. Jack Clemens finishes 15th from Virginia Tech. Nick Stockner from Clemson finishes 16th. Lucas Moody finishes 17th. Logan Harpine from ETSU finishes 18th. And Ethan Head and Zach Tallman round out your top 20.
Batting 21st tonight, Ben Neller, Kelton Quick will finish 22nd. Matthew Morton with that late bit of contact will finish 23rd. Trey Lamprecht for Texas A&M San Antonio 24th, just ahead of Carter Copini in 25th. Ethan Decatur, despite all the carnage he was in tonight, will finish 26th as the last car on the lead lap. Everyone from here on out, one or more lap down. Gavin Brooks finishing 27th. Logan McKim 28th. Matthew Nordberg and Logan Smith, your top 30.
31st, Dawson DeLong from Penn College of Technology. Maverick Davis from Kettering finishes 32nd. Brian Ferwetta from Embry-Riddle finishes 33rd. Wesley Shaw from Texas A&M Texarkana finishes 34th. Brennan Lyman from Oklahoma Panhandle State University finishes 35th. Garrett Vighton from Arizona State University 36th. Aaron Brown finishes 37th. And Ramon finishes 38th. Ronan Suarez from Santa Monica finishes 39th. And rounding out your top 40, Josh Camphor from KSU.
And the last couple finishers there on your screen. And that is going to do it here tonight as far as your race results. Michael James, Jack Wilson, Miguel Carrera, your final finishers, will be joining now with race winner for the first time this season, Ball State's Daniel Nanny. Hey there, Daniel. This is Alex and Brad in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, it did not take long for you to finally get back in victory lane for the first time this season. And it was a weird one tonight, that's for sure. But, you know, putting the obvious aside of tonight, that green-white checkered, you had to go out there, you had to take a win away from Brandon Schulenberger. What did it take on that last restart to go out there and get the win?
I don't know. I knew he was going to jump the restart from the previous restart. And due to the time limit, we only have one lap, so it's just a white flag lap there. So I had to time it perfectly, which I did, and I managed to stand as outside and get the side draft. So I knew once I get into turn one and I'm standing outside, I was going to get the run and I was going to win the race.
And that you did. It was a great run. Gave you just the edge you needed on those slightly fresher tires going to the end. And, with that, you finally pick up your first win here. But the other thing I want to ask you, 3 straight College Cup Series wins at Pocono for you. What about this track suits your driving style so well?
I don't know. I love the big race track. I feel like the big race tracks are my bread and butter. And the fact that I can win at these race tracks, unfortunately, I don't think I won at Michigan yet. I came close early in the season, but it's just the big race tracks. I feel like fit my driving style and a little bit of, the new dirty air and the air package and all of that. I can use that to my advantage more. So, overall, it's just my bread and butter.
Yeah, well, it seems to be working for you. 3 straight wins at Pocono for you. Next week, we'll be heading the road to Atlanta. But, Daniel, anyone you'd like to shout out on the win here tonight?
Yeah, I got to shout out my teammates at Ball State University and the entire esports program for giving me this opportunity. And I'm just happy to finally get this win for them. I know we've been searching for the cup win all season. I mean, besides Daytona, but we don't really count that since the crash. But, everybody, all the sponsors and the car, Royco, and CIL for putting on this lead for us. And of course, the broadcasters. Thank you guys so much. And that's about it.
All righty, Daniel, thank you so much for dropping by. Congrats on win number 1 of the season and win number many more than that here in your College Cup Series career. We will catch you next week at Road Atlanta.
All right, thank you, guys.
And that was your race winner here tonight, Daniel Nenny in that 30 machine for Ball State. And Brad is now standing by with our runner-up finisher, Wingate's Brandon Schulenberger.
I'm down here with Wingate's Brandon Schulenberger. Brandon, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
So, say it was a battle of attrition is probably an understatement here in Pocono, but you're coming through a very, very great start to the season. First half of the season, I believe you're now going to be P2 in the standings right behind Daniel Nanny. How are you feeling coming into Pocono, and how are you feeling leaving Pocono?
I came into Pocono actually feeling pretty good. It's obviously the tricky triangle, but as you said, this has by far been the best start to a season I've had ever here in the CIL. We've just, I mean, my big motto has been to survive the chaos and just finish with top tens. And luckily that's came with that exact thing, other than I think the first race I screwed it over somehow at Vegas or whatever. But nah, I had a lot of optimism going into this race, coming off of like back-to-back poles. I know they were super speedways and whatnot, but still a lot of momentum. And then yeah, this race turned out for I'd say the absolute worst for everybody. Y'all, us, and everyone. I have a lot of mixed emotions, to be honest. I mean, I should come in here pumped and excited with the P2, but I also don't know if it's going to be a P2 because I know Nanny challenged his call after he got a strike in the race, so technically he hasn't got the penalty for it, and now it all comes down to if he wins his appeal, which I don't know if he will win that or not. I guess is what I'm gonna leave it at. I don't think he will. Um, but I'm just annoyed. I knew if I wanted to win this race, I just had to clear him on the restart, and I tried to go about as early as I could in the box, and he just side drafted me all the way to turn one. He had a great restart, and I knew once he was on my outside, I was toast. I mean, I knew in my mind that there's a good chance he doesn't win his appeal and he gets an EOL, and by technicality, I could be the winner. So I didn't want to play in too many stupid games. Obviously a disaster of a race with, I guess, nothing but about strategy, you could say. So I'm happy for that, but just bummed I didn't completely pull it out, and I don't have to sit here and wait on the situation to see what happens.
Right. And, during that time, you do have a week. And where we go to a place called Road Atlanta that is completely not like Pocono. How are you? Like, you looking forward to that? You not looking forward to that? I know we've been there before. I'm trying to think back. I don't exactly have the results of the last time we raced there to see where you finished. But how are you feeling going back to Road Atlanta?
I think if I remember correctly, it was a P8, P9, maybe P10. It was somewhere right there around the top 10. Um, I don't consider myself a great road course driver, maybe above average, I guess. So the strategy will be to practice a lot and hopefully just come out clean with the top 10. I'm not expecting a podium or top 5. There's a lot of really good road racers in this league, in the Cup Series, so it's just going to be hoping for a clean day, to be honest, with limited mistakes.
Well, right now we have our statistician, aka Alex, in the booth here, confirming you got P8 the last time you were at Road Atlanta. So again, I mean, a P10 top 10 finish would still consistently keep you at least in the top 3 in points right now. And obviously, we'll see what happens with the appeals and everything throughout the week. But for right now, you know, you're having a great start to the season. Looking forward to keeping that momentum going into next week. But before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to shout out?
Definitely shout out y'all for sitting through that catastrophe. I have no idea how y'all pulled through and what y'all talked about. I heard that y'all talked about ice cream for 10 plus minutes or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
I heard that. I'll have to go back and watch, I guess. Shout out to my girlfriend. I know she watched a lot of these. And of course, shout out to OWR just for the great group of guys they are.
Alrighty. Well, always a pleasure to talk to you, Brandon. And hopefully we'll see you back up here in the booth at Road Atlanta next week.
Yeah, that'd be a miracle, but we'll see, I guess.
Alrighty. Well, have a good night, Brandon.
Thank you, y'all too.
And we are going to send it back up to the booth with Alex with our third place finisher from St. Clair College, Keegan Cowlick.
Hey there, Keegan. I know you're running, I think, off to work. Let me know if you've, A, got a copy, and B, got a second. Hey there, King. This is Alex Brad in the booth. You got a copy?
Oh, go again.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Sorry, I'm gonna try and make this a little bit snappy. I started work like 20 minutes ago, so I'm waiting to walk in the building door.
Well, yeah, best of luck. Congrats on the podium, my man. Great stuff.
Thank you.
I guess most importantly, while you have a second, is there anyone you want to shout out on the podium here?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. I'm going to shout out my mom and my dad. They've been watching every single race since I started in the CIL, as well as my lovely girlfriend, Sydney. She's been doing the same, watching the whole way through. Yeah.
All right. Hey, you know what? I know you got to run to work. How about this? Let's try to get you like a little pre-show interview next week if you're here. That way we can talk to you when it's not a whole rush thing. If that works for you, we can do that.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Let's do that. That works.
All right, cool. So, Keegan, not to cut you short, but I don't want you to be late for work or nothing. But congrats on the podium, my man. Hell of a drive.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It was an absolutely brutal. It was a brutal race, but I mean, I had a blast doing it, so it's all right.
And that was an understatement, that's for sure. So we'll give you the proper opportunity to sit and talk here pre-race next week. We'll write that down
good.
and we'll figure that out. But best of luck. Enjoy. Not enjoy work, but enjoy the podium. Hopefully that makes work a little bit better today.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
And that is Keegan Calick, who was able to spare a moment here to join us up in the booth from a third place finish here for St. Clair College. A great run there for the 29 machine. And we'll properly talk to him at the start of the next one. We didn't want him to be late for work because at the end of the day, this is not the be all end all. We want people to come out here, have a good time. And we'll get the proper setup for it next time around. But with that, it's just about going to do it here for our coverage tonight from Pocono. Brad, any final thoughts on the way this one went?
I think it was a little wacky, and I think it shows the CIL has a lot of different. Anything can happen, really, in these races. We can also find a lot of good topics to talk about. So, nonetheless, I think all that said and done, next week we got Road Atlanta, a very interesting combo with these cars at track, and everything being said and done, Pocono out of the way, first half of the season, everyone's good to go. So, everyone's looking forward to the second half, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too. And guess what, folks? If you're still here, I'm going to make you an Alex Gagnon promise right here, right now, and I would bet every dollar I've ever made on it. Next week's race will certainly be shorter than tonight's race was, as this went the full distance, and road courses, it's pretty tough to draw a yellow with those. So something tells me that one will go a little bit quicker. So coming up next week, it is Road Atlanta here for the College Cup Series, October 13th. Show starts at 8:45 p.m. right here on the CIL YouTube. You won't want to miss it, and if you're not already subscribed, feel free to do so. That way you get notifications every time one of these races are about to kick off. Also this week, we have the Formula College Series is also going to Pocono. That is October 9th here, 8:45 p.m. That is this Thursday on this channel, and that is the other race happening this week. But for everyone here at the CIL, all the admins, stewards, drivers, thank you so much for tuning in, for everyone at home. For producer Christian Hill, my co-commentator tonight, Brad Daniels, I've been Alex Gagnon, thanking you so much for tuning in and sticking with us through this absolute marathon of a race here at Pocono. We will catch you next week at Road Atlanta when we turn left and right for the only time this season. You won't want to miss it. So y'all have a good evening and get some rest. It's getting late.
When you're behind the wheel, you need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.